All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, RUM-Gaming proudly brings to you the Big Texas Goat and the Dragon Lord and the weekly. Forgot its name already because I'm terrible. Two
Two
veterans, two
veterans, two
brothers,
brothers,
two
two
views.
views.
An open discussion stream.
Way to start
Maybe we
things
should.
off.
Maybe I should put that at the bottom of the page right there, so I don't
Yeah,
forget it.
we'll edit it in post. All right, no
Yeah.
problem.
So we're here.
Don't never mind that we're live, but
Yeah. Are we though?
we could be.
So the point of this stream is to help spread awareness of our community and our organization. So if you're not aware, we have a RUM-Gaming as a veteran supporting nonprofit organization that attempts to give away 10 free 3D prints a month with the aspirations of giving away gaming computers at some point. All you got to do is just go to our website, rum-gaming.com, and fill out the form, and we'll mail whatever you want directly to you, free of charge, as long as you're an approved veteran. If you're not, we also sell them, for any donation amount, or certain donation amounts, depending on how big of an item you want. You make a donation, we give you a print and send it to you. And yeah.
Pretty cool deal. Pretty cool deal. We've got a couple of printers at our disposal, so turnaround is pretty quick on that too. So
And soon to have a resin printer if you're into little, minis for tabletop gaming and whatnot. So for this first discussion, and we've discussed that we're going to alternate back and forth, where one of us is going to have the talking points the one week and the other one to have the talking points the next week. I want our first one to be semi-veteran related, but didn't want it to be all serious and talk about like veteran suicide, even though it's a serious on our first week. I want to keep it a little bit light and friendly. So instead of doing like news articles and whatnot, I actually just brought up a list of things that are to understand a military veteran. You must know these things.
oh boy, here we go.
It's a pretty interesting list. Some of them are things that are obvious that we all think and know about and see, and others you're like, damn, I never even thought about that as being something that you developed from being in the military.
Yeah, I mean, I think off the bat for me, like one of the biggest things that I just notice about that it kind of changed for me from being a veteran is like the people that I like the friendships that I made in the military are vastly different from the friendships that I have like outside of the military
Yeah,
because
because you
like
have to keep your pants on outside of the
well
military.
but yeah but not only that, right, but like I could not talk to somebody for like 2 years and then out of the blue message them and we'll just pick up like we just spoke like an hour ago. you know, I mean, a perfect example is when I got married. As kind of just a joke, I wasn't really expecting anything of it, but because he was a friend, I knew him. I figured I'd at least have the courtesy of tossing him an invite. I hadn't talked to this guy in like 2.5 years, and I just shot him a message out of the blue. It's like, hey man, I'm getting married on this day. You want to come? And he fucking flew out. He took leave and flew out from um, Peru to come to my fucking
I
wedding.
thought he just came from Florida or something.
No, no. Well, I can't remember. He may have been in Florida. You know who I'm talking about, though. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Well, you've
Johnny.
you've mentioned this before, but I don't know
Yeah,
him.
yeah. He just like dropped everything and took leave and came to my wedding after not talking to me for like 2.5 years. It's like that kind of stuff to me is really unique to veterans. I don't think you see that outside of the veteran
I
community.
mean, I feel like some would argue that that's also just a sign of a deeper friendship. You know.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you being in the military forges those deep friendships a lot faster than they would
Well, that's true.
anywhere
I
else.
would agree that it does happen faster. But like, I got a buddy of mine that lives in, or you met him, I think. Maybe that one trip to Dallas, we went out to dinner with a guy.
hmm
I can't remember if you were there or not. But yeah, we went to high school together for just like 3 years. That's it. It was only like it was like freshman, junior, sophomore year, and then I went to Katy for my senior year, and like basically stopped talking to that dude once I went to Katy. Yeah, partially because he got involved in some bad shit, but
Yeah.
we always like had each other's numbers and whatnot, and it's kind of that same thing. Like we won't talk for like 3 years, and all of a sudden I'll just be like, "Hey, I'm in town for QuakeCon. Like you want to hang out?
You
We
wanna
get
link up?
together and
Yeah.
fucking hug it out like we saw each other last weekend." And
Yeah.
it's just, but that was nothing to do with the military. That was just 3 years in high school. We went through some shit together in high school, and you know, stuck through it. Some of that, I mean, I think the military turns you into that kind of person that appreciates those bonds. Whereas me and
Yeah.
that friend were just that type of person all along.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely kind of beat that into your skull when in boot camp is to
Yeah,
like
make your buddy
make sure.
smile.
That's right. Be there for one another because nobody else is gonna be. You know.
So, on that note, like I said, I got this list. We'll try and get through them all by the end. Just depends on how much we ramble on. So the first one is we left home as teenagers or in our early 20s for an unknown adventure.
Oh yeah.
It's like, you know, it's kind of hard to compare that to somebody that say just stayed in town or even just stayed in the area.
Yeah.
Whereas
I mean,
like I signed up and went straight to Germany. Like I left the country.
I was gonna say I signed up and went to Florida. Like I just fucking.
Yeah.
I mean, first I went to Chicago. Like.
Yeah. Well, then the unknown adventures, you're rolling that dice of whether you're going to get deployed or not and go on a
Yeah.
whole nother adventure. It's like,
Yeah.
the whole unknown adventure. Like, you really don't know where you're going to get stationed. You just sign up to go anywhere and do anything.
But yeah, I mean, it even really goes deeper than that because like just going to boot camp is like a whole unknown adventure because you there's no
Only
way
thing you
you're
got in your
ever
mind is that movie, Full
yeah,
Metal
it's like
Jacket.
you'll never be able to prepare yourself for that time period. Like it doesn't matter what you do, you are not ready. Like,
And then afterwards, we laugh about it, thinking, man, if I could
yeah.
go back knowing what I know now,
Oh my god, it'd be a
I'd just be like,
cakewalk.
oh, you want me to do push ups? Okay. 1, 2, 3. What are you going to do? I can go all
Power ranking. All
day.
right, 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah, Ben, you're right. It does. It puts you in military. Puts you in all kinds of situations, not just the unknown adventure,
Oh yeah,
which is
I got a gun pointed at me one time in the military.
sounds like me when I was on my dumb shit. What do you mean when you were on your dumb shit? We've known you for a long time. You being on your dumb shit is an extensive list.
I was
You
gonna
got
say
to be more
I mean,
specific.
you're always
You
on
talking
your
about
shit.
last weekend or in your 20s? Because oh yeah, yeah. When you start making choices, sometimes choices get made for you.
Yeah, especially in the military, a lot of choices get made for you.
Well, I meant like in some of Garrett's,
Oh,
bad history. You start making bad choices, so the decisions get made for you.
yep.
Uh, but yeah, that's the first step in the military. It's just like, let me just go fucking sign up, send
Go
me
somewhere.
somewhere, meet some fucking strangers that are gonna control my life for the next X amount of years and get paid to do it,
Yep.
and then just hope you can take it.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a knack for being told what to wear, when to wear it, where to be, when to be there, and how to be there, I mean, it's the place for you.
Yeah, you're either married or you're in the army. Uh, so number 2 here is a little cheesy, and I admit when I joined, before I tell you what it is, when I joined, this is 100% how I felt. Hardcore, but this was like 50% of my reasoning for joining. And then afterwards, or as I stayed in, and the longer I stayed in, even getting out, like that kind of dwindled down further and further, or it just changed its meaning. But it says we loved our country enough to defend it and protect it with our own lives. And it's
I mean,
like,
yeah,
to me, it's just that first part. Loved our country. Like, I don't know. Nowadays, as I've learned more over my life, like, I kind of have a 50-50 love hate relationship with the country, but I'd still
yeah,
take a bullet for it. But
yeah. I mean, I think it's important to make the to what's the word I'm looking for? I think it's important to understand that there's a difference between our country and our society. Okay, I can't
yeah,
stand our fucking society, but I love this country.
I'm just saying, when I was 18, that was one of my first tattoos I got was an American flag. Just like,
Yeah.
America, fuck yeah.
See,
Like,
I got a Texas on my arm. I don't have anything American on me.
I got that flag and it's just like, oh, America's the fucking best. I'm a fucking soldier. Like, it's like, as you get older and wiser, you realize, like, man, I was such a young, dumb kid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I struggle with that a lot because I feel like I have like kind of like imposter syndrome type of deal. It's like, yeah, I was in the military, I was in the Navy, but I didn't really fucking go anywhere, and I never really did anything to like better the country per se.
Well,
Like the
I
Navy will
mean,
tell you all day long of what everything that you did is just bettering the country and making this country great. But it's like, did I really have that much of an impact?
well,
Like,
even me, doing 2 deployments, I'm like, did I better the country? And then you think
yeah,
about things like with, was it Afghanistan or no, which one was the one where like we gave them a bunch of shit basically, and then they like
that,
lost it a week later?
yeah, that was that I think that was Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's like imagine that, like you went like 2 deployments or 1 deployment or even more through Afghanistan, lost friends and family members, and went through all this shit thinking you're helping out this country, and then come to find out like it all just got turned back over to them. Like
Yeah,
all
I
the
definitely, I can definitely, I would, if I were in that position where I was stationed out there and, in the fucking desert, I'd be pissed.
yeah, like you're thinking like, oh, it's okay, my buddy died because it was for the betterness of our country and helping out these people, and and then all a week later, it's all turned back over to him, and it's like, man,
Yeah,
like how hard of a feeling does that have to hit you even years later after it happened? And even if
yeah,
nothing happened, you're like, I sacrificed my time away from my family for 6 to 12 months or longer at a time to be deployed out there. And it's like, for what?
yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with that sentiment.
So,
That would definitely piss me off big time.
which is kind of why I look at it like, we loved our country enough to, like, I don't know. When you start
They
thinking about
pay,
situations like that, I'm like,
they pay pretty good. I
yeah.
mean,
It's one of those things like, I'll fight this land, I'll fight you off this land, but I don't really agree with us going and playing Big Brother everywhere so much.
yeah, agreed.
But it is true. They do make you feel like, oh, you're doing everything for your country. You're doing these push ups for your country. You're scrubbing this floor for your country.
Yeah,
You're doing this 100-mile ruck march for your country. And we're
yeah.
like, man, I don't know. Like,
Seems a whole like I'm doing a whole lot of fucking walking for no reason.
uh,
Yeah, that's one thing I can't appreciate about being in the Navy. I don't have to worry about all those fucking ruck marches and shit. We didn't do that.
I mean, I only really did it like, it's situational. It wasn't some like regular thing, but when you have like a hardcore platoon sergeant that's tired of just the standard PT, and
Yeah,
he's
you're
like, you
gonna be
know what?
inventive.
I got a surprise for y'all on Friday. And you're like, oh shit. Like, this motherfucker's like, we're going uphill both ways, carrying your battle buddy on your shoulder. Like, fuck.
Yeah, I always knew when there was like an outside like division officer that would come in and do PT for our fucking squad, and he's like, "Well, make sure you're there on time tomorrow. It's gonna be a great time." And I'm like, "I doubt that."
Think I'm
I
feeling a
highly
cold coming
agree.
on. Gotta
It's
go to
like,
sick call.
yeah, and it's like, yep, sure enough, we're doing a fucking 5 mile fucking march, and it's like, God damn it.
Yeah. Hawaii was, well, I guess they were both kind of worse. So in Germany, there was it's, I want to say it's the world's largest or second largest, like training area that the army has. It might be the military, I don't know, because it's kind of a joint force thing. But it's all between two bases. So you can literally take nothing but range roads between the two bases, or you have to go off post, travel on Germany roads to get to the other post. But it's huge. I'd have to Google it to tell you like how many acres and shit, but it's ridiculous. And now I forgot why I was even saying that. What were we just saying?
We were talking about
Oh,
rough marches.
the Rock March, yeah. So the drive to get to the entrance of the training area from the post, like even just on post, was like a solid 5 miles before you got to the main entrance. So like
Mhm.
that was like the designated run or march or jogging path,
So you
was to
have to
go
go
all the way to the training range entrance and then all the way
all
back.
the way back. So you're just doing 10 miles.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
fuck
was
that, dude.
that was one of my punishments one time, was having to make it all the way to the end and back.
Oof, fuck that, dude. The most we really had to do, like on a regular basis, is every quarter we'd have to do, our fitness exams. Um, and the Navy requires, based on your height and weight and your metrics and things like that, they require a 1.5 mile run, and I think average is like under 12 minutes,
Yeah,
which that's
dude,
that's tough.
I was pulling up the Air Force
So
one recently because we want Grace to go to the Air Force, and I was like, man, honestly, with some mild training, I could pass that now. like,
probably,
like I'm a broke ass, out of shape, fat man, and I'm like, you give me about 2 weeks, I could probably pass that Air Force test
yeah,
because it was something stupid like 5 push-ups or something. I don't know, for the minimum anyway, not to like pass it with 100%, but
yeah,
the minimum was like, man, like your minimum compared to my army minimum is like a third.
yeah. Like I never did the run. Like I came up with every reason that I could to just do the bike, because they gave us an option. You can run it,
Yeah,
you can swim it, you can do it on an elliptical, or you can do it on a bike. And I was like, I'm doing it on a bike.
the army was either run or you have a profile, like a disability or whatever, and you have to walk it. And it was walk. God, what was it? So it was walk 1.5 miles in X amount of time, or run 2 miles in X amount of time. And even that walk, like the walk was, you had to kind of fine tune it. It was
Yeah,
like, it wasn't like you had to power walk the entire time, but you
you
couldn't
gotta you gotta
just,
figure out the pacing for
yeah,
sure.
you had to kind of just time it. We're like, all right, if I'm here by this point, then I have to power walk the rest.
I remember what I used to do when I was doing the run is I knew like how long I had to pass. So I would put together like a Spotify playlist that's exactly that amount of time.
And then that
So
last
I
song
knew
kicks on. You're like,
I know, yeah, right. When that last song comes on, I know I've only got like 2 or 3 minutes left, so I better start booking it. You know?
shit. That's when the Let the Bodies Hit the Floor intro hits a new bidding. Let the
All
bodies
right.
hit the floor. Ah, run! So anyway, where did we leave off? That was number 2.
Yeah.
So the next one kind of ties back into a little bit of the first one, where we're talking about like being deployed and leaving everybody behind. This one just says like we said goodbye to our friends and family and everything we knew, at least for a short period of time.
Oh yeah. I mean, I agree with that 110%. Like, you get thrown into this completely foreign fucking situation, and there's just no. I mean, once you're there, you're there. There's really no going back at that point. So
Well, and I think about this one all the time for me personally, because like I left like I joined the army at 17. I was still in high school. I didn't even experience my junior year summer or senior year summer like normal kids. Like I
Yeah.
left. So while everybody else was making friends and bonds with their local friends, I was gone.
Yeah.
And then even right afterwards, like right after my senior year, like 6 months after I graduated, I did my first deployment. And then 6 months after that, I went active duty and just left. And it's like now, as an adult that's never lived in the same town long enough to make those friends from high school or college or your first job that transition into like long term lifetime friends, like I don't have any of those.
Yeah.
And like it's just interesting to think, these people that stayed in town, like they have these networks of 20, 30 friends and family members that they can have a big ass barbecue together with. And I'm like, man, if I tried to throw a barbecue right now, I'd have about 3 people to invite that live in town with me.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, mine was a little bit different, right? I still retained a lot of my friends from high school, but again, I mean, I was in a completely different situation from you. I didn't join until after I had already graduated.
yeah.
Um, so I had already, made established friendships and relationships like that, and
When
so
you came back.
yeah, and I came back to the same fucking place I left from, and guess what? All of my friends were still doing the same fucking shit. So
Well, and I mean, I came back too, but I came back, 10 years later. Motherfuckers don't even live there anymore. Like,
yeah,
yeah. And I tried to keep in touch with some of my friends over those 10 years, and that's the whole, saying goodbye to your friends. Like, it used to be like while I was in Germany and Hawaii, like, every, like, once a year, I'd pull up, like, every friend I have, call them up, message them, whatever, try and get in touch with them, try and play that catch up game to try and, like, stay in touch. But, I mean, it really boils down to, like, neither of you, like, you do, you're still friends, but you're not friends enough to
time.
constantly keep in
Yeah,
touch. I mean,
yeah,
and then it's like I said, came back 10 years later, and I'm like, it was a single friend still in Katy. Well, that was the other problem is I graduated from Katy, and I only spent like 8 months at that school. So
yeah.
it's not like I even really made a ton of friends in Katy. So even coming back to Katy for me is different than you coming back to Katy. You came back to people you spent the last 9 years getting to
That's
learn.
true.
I
That's
had,
true.
half a fucking semester of high school trying to make friends and come back and I'm like, oh dang, like the 3 people I knew were gone. Like, all right.
Yeah,
And then we came up here and I don't know if this is on the list here, but it's definitely interesting making friends as an older, grumpy veteran
yeah. I
that
mean,
like
even like making friends in the military is like different than making friends in the civilian world, at least in my opinion.
well, yeah, because the military, you're literally all soldiers. You all have the same profession in a sense. Yeah, the
Yeah,
same core
yeah.
profession.
Well, I mean, like I got a funny story. One of the groomsmen at my wedding, you met him, you know him. His name was Dylan. The way that we met is is really funny. I remember it was a Friday night. Um, I had worked late. I was just I had really busted my ass that day. So I got home. I was sweaty as shit. I was tired. I didn't even want to shower. Like I just wanted to go to fucking bed, shower in the morning, and just get to sleep. So I do. I get home late. I go to bed, and one of my buddies in the squadron that worked with me, he knocked on my door at like midnight. And he was like, "Hey man, your neighbor across the hallway is, throwing a little party, and he said you can come if you want to come. Come by, come drink some beers." And I was like, fuck it, all right, cool, fine. So I throw on some shorts and a tank top, and I go over there, and I'm hanging out, drinking a beer with a bunch of people in my fucking barracks that I don't even fucking know, right? And this guy walks up to me, he was like, "Dude, you fucking stink. Get the fuck out." And I was like, "Wow, all right." So I just fucking left and went back to bed. Next morning, I wake up, and at the time I was smoking, and so I wake up, I shower, I go downstairs to the smoke pit in the barracks, and lo and behold, that same guy comes down to the smoke pit, and I had just smoked my last cigarette. He comes down, and I see him, and I notice he smokes the same, cigarettes that I did. So, we started talking about that. And I was like, I know you from somewhere. He was like, yeah, you were at my party last night. That was my room. I was like, dude, yeah. That was kind of a dick thing to do. And he was like, yeah, I was drunk, man. I'm sorry. I was like, yeah, it's no big deal. I know I stunk. I hadn't showered. I probably smelled pretty bad. He was like, yeah, it's all. And so we just started talking, and we became lifelong friends. you know, and
Yeah.
so it's pretty funny, and like, yeah, I mean, that shit just doesn't happen anywhere else. I hated this guy's guts, and now he's
Getting
like one of my
stared at
best
by the
buddies.
wife. Sorry.
What's she staring at you for?
Because I gave her her own box of cookies back that are half empty now.
Oh, big mistake.
She wasn't even aware that I had them.
I do that every once
I
in a
had them
while.
for like a week.
I bought 3 boxes. You had 1.
Exactly.
I'll like open the freezer, and I'm like, ooh, ice cream. And so I eat it, and then Shelby's like, where's my ice cream? And I'm like, oh.
We'll find another Girl Scout.
You gonna go buy another Girl Scout?
Oh yeah. They can provide some cookies.
They're not slave labor. Jesus. Shit. I had something to add on to what you said, and then got distracted with cookies. Oh, it's also the difference you're talking about, like in the barracks. Like that's a whole nother experience than normal living.
Oh yeah.
Because like yeah,
that shit.
there's weekend on the weekends. There's just a party going on in somebody's room like every weekend that you can just go make friends at. Whereas an adult in a neighborhood, I'm not exactly just crashing somebody's party.
It's funny. I relate, and I honestly believe this, but I relate like being in the military and living in the barracks to almost the same as prison. Like it really, really is.
A little less
Like,
risky. Was never really afraid of getting shanked or
right,
raped
like, yeah,
in
but
prison.
in the sense,
But I wasn't in the Navy, so you know.
yeah, but I mean it in the sense like it institutionalizes you in a way, because like I'll give
I
you a
know.
perfect example. Like a friend of mine, she moved out of the barracks because she got, she made rank and she was able to move out and get a house on base. So she gets a house on base, and she was like late to work, and I was like, hey, you were late today, is everything all right? And she was like, yeah, I forgot to take my trash out. And I was like, you realize you don't live in the barracks anymore. They're not going to come and inspect your house, right? You don't have to do that every day. She's like, I know, it's just a habit, I can't break it. And I was like, yeah, well, there you go.
Of course, the difference there is you got to make sure you maintain that trash schedule.
Yeah,
You can't just throw it in the dumpster on your way out.
yeah.
Yeah. So friends and family. It's definitely interesting. And we talked about this one a little bit too, where it's like going to the family aspect, like the extended family I have with the Lovatos,
Yeah.
where it's like y'all spent every holiday together for the last 10, well, how old am I? 20 years.
Yeah.
Out of the last 20 years, even with you being gone for, where were you out for 4 years?
4. Yeah, it was just 4.
So, you still had 16 years of holidays together. And I was there every other year on like leave or something, or like,
Yeah.
and even when I got out, it was once a year for like the Super Bowl or something.
Yeah.
And so like, it's one of those things where like, yeah, we're still family. Whenever we get together, we're happy to see each other. But, because of that, because I was gone for 10 years in the military and then I came up here, it's like, yeah, they're family, but we're not exactly like keeping in touch. We're not calling each other, asking each other how we're doing, or
the bond definitely isn't like as strong.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, one of those things that, still feeling the saying goodbye residue from joining the military from that one.
Yeah.
So next on the list is, wait, what? I don't really understand this one. We learned the basics, and then we scattered in the wind to the far corners of the earth.
Yeah, I mean that's
I
true,
guess, I
right?
guess if you're
Like,
talking about basic training, like,
yeah, I think that's exactly what it's talking about, right? Like, so I mean, we go through basic training, and you make your own little friendships and relationships there,
then you
you
just
know.
pop smoke.
And then yeah, and then they're just gone. And then if you're lucky, you'll run into them somewhere else. I think that only happened. Yeah, no, I didn't run into anybody that I went to boot camp with. Not a single
Yeah,
person.
neither did I. Or
Except for
AIT.
well, no, I did when I went to school. Right when I went to a school, there were a couple of people that I went to boot camp with
Your
at
wife
school.
said Abel. I don't know what she's saying Abel about.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I didn't go to boot camp with Abel. Abel was just he was at my first duty station. And then he ended up getting stationed um no. No, that's not true either. I never got stationed with Abel again. It was Alexis. Yeah, I had a somebody that I was stationed with in Florida. Um her name was Alexis. She was the same person that moved off base and was trying to break the taking out the trash habit. But she transferred before I did from Florida to a different duty station. I ended up getting orders to the same place. We weren't in the same squad anymore or anything like that, but you know I saw her around base and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't think I can't remember running into anybody that I went to boot camp with outside of boot camp.
what's
Other than
crazy
like
about that, though,
high
is
school.
it's like working for. Fuck. I don't know. I can't even think of a equally big. It's like working for AT&T.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, we can all work for AT&T. Well, that's not even a good example. There really is no good example. You think about, like, just because you're going to the same duty station, it's not the same as working at the same office.
yeah, no, it's not
There's
even close.
there's
Like,
thousands of people.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you
Like
could have been
we were
stationed in the
stationed.
same place, and you
Yeah,
wouldn't have even known.
yeah, that's very true. Like, yeah, we were on the same base, but we weren't anywhere near each other as far as like work.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. You might have been stationed with a dozen people that you went to boot camp with, and you wouldn't even know it. Like,
Yeah,
shit. Like, unless you just happen to see each other at the bar or the grocery store or something. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
but I'm like, hell, even in a town like Bartlesville, I work with a couple hundred people, and maybe once a month I'll see somebody that I know.
yeah. It's funny. I've actually had a better experience like running into people that I know like outside of the military than I have inside the military. Like for an example, when I went to Universal Technical Institute for mechanics. My transmission teacher, his name was Thomas Linville. Super cool guy. He was one of my favorite teachers that I ever had, like during my course of that school. And then flash forward, a couple of years, and I'm working at a dealership, and they're hiring service advisors. And lo and behold, who gets the job as a service advisor at my dealership? It was my instructor that taught me transmissions at UTI. So I saw him and I was like, "Oh, dude, what's going on?" Like, it was really cool. It's a small world sometimes, man.
Sometimes. But it's like, I mean, Ben was pointing at like Phillips or Walmart, and it's like even then, even like a big corporate building, you still have a pretty good odds of catching each other in the elevator one day, or exiting or entering the building, or going to the bathroom at the same time or something.
And not only that, like it makes it easier too, because you could just shoot that person a message like, "Hey, you want to go grab lunch?" Or
Well,
whatever.
I meant like
You
if
know?
they started working there and you didn't know.
Oh, yeah,
Same as like the getting stationed at the same duty station. Like if I went to Fort Hood one year and you came the next year but didn't tell me, the odds
yeah.
of me just running into you on Fort Hood is
Slim to none.
astronomical. But the odds of me running into you in a corporate building, I'll probably see you eventually.
Yeah, at some point, right?
And then they'll be like, "Oh shit, how long have you worked here? I've been here for 6 months." But like, "Oh shit." And like Walmart's not really a good enough example. I mean, how many employees actually work at one Walmart?
Yeah, they probably have like 15 people that work at a
Well,
Walmart.
no, there's way more than that.
Dude, with how many cash registers they have open at
Yeah, but
one
you're
time?
you're talking about a place that's open almost 24 hours a day. Stockers, loaders, like
Well,
cleaners. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, they probably
management.
only have they probably only have like 15 people on shift at a time. They're probably
Well, yeah,
throughout the day.
but I'm talking about
probably
everybody. It's probably like 100. I mean, even with 100 people, though, you'll probably see them at some point.
yeah,
Like, I highly doubt me and you could work at the same Walmart and not know about it for months.
yeah, that's true. I mean, like if anything, you'd see my name on a schedule or something.
Yeah, I'd be like, wait a
You
damn
know?
minute. You'd be like, who the fuck is working in produce this week? Jason Lovato? The fuck? But yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of true. Like, yeah, you learn the basics and just pop smoke versus like you go and train at Walmart and it's to work at that Walmart. It's not like you're gonna
Yeah.
go train at the Houston Walmart to go work in Washington.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. We found new friends and new family, which we've
Yeah.
kind of hit on
kinda
that.
that kind of goes without saying, you know.
But it's true. It's kind of like one of the first things you were saying, where, I mean, you made friends on your first, or even you, like your 4-year duty station. You made friends there that you could call up now and hang out if y'all are in the same area.
Yeah.
I mean, even more to the extent, like, with a lot of the friends you make in the military, like, you can go crash on their couch. Versus if I called up somebody I was friends with in high school, they'd just be like, Jay, who?
No.
No, you're not sleeping on my couch. What the fuck? I don't even know you.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, for most military members, you kind of maintain who you were the rest of your life. You're not really changing very much. Whereas, like, the high school kid can be a whole different person nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think the relationship thing is really unique to the military. Like, there are a lot of organizations that try to, emulate that, brotherhood and that family type aspect. And
Well, it's a whole different kind of trust too. I mean, you're
Yeah.
trusting to live with each other, work with each other, play with each other. It's
Yeah.
not just clock in, do my job, go home, and you just happen to be in the same building as me.
Exactly. I mean, you really do everything with these
Yeah.
people.
Get punished together.
It's like I've always said. It's like you have to learn to embrace the suck, and if you realize that everybody around you is doing the exact same thing, right? It just makes it easier to get along. It's like I don't ever have to question, like, what does that guy got going on in his life? It's like, oh, I already fucking know.
Yeah, the same shit that's going on in your bullshit life.
There's nothing that he's gonna be able to tell me that I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, no, I can't relate to that.
Yeah. But the exception of, like, your actual job. But,
Yeah.
like, me as the mechanic versus you as the, main, or what am I talking about? Like, command office clerk or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what'd you do
Well, say,
today?
for me-
Type up memos? What'd you do today? Bust my knuckles open while throwing wrenches across the room.
Yeah. I mean, that's where me and you can relate really well because we were both, mechanics in a way. Like you worked on actual vehicles, I worked on aircraft. But I mean, we
Yeah, but I
still
actually
held
worked.
the title of a mechanic. Well, fuck you.
Hey, what's my profile picture on the website? And what's yours?
That's fair. I never did look like. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, mine could be that way, except you wouldn't be able to see it because it's just fucking jet fuel. Like I'm just soaking wet. It looks like water.
Y'all are
I've
having a
been
wet
soaked-
t-shirt contest and you call
I've
it
been
work.
soaked
Yeah.
from head to toe in jet fuel. Trust me, I know the feeling.
I've only had diesel fuel like that, but it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Man, I guess some of these are kind of the same. We became brothers and sisters regardless of color, race, or creed.
Yeah.
I mean, brothers and sisters part, yeah, but the ending part, the color, race, and creed, that's another interesting one that is hard for people to understand.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is hard for people to understand. I mean, certainly not for me. Like, I wholeheartedly agree with that because, like, when you're in those situations and in that kind of lifestyle, that kind of shit just truly, really does not matter. And I mean, they make a very good point of making that known that none of that shit matters.
Well,
Like,
because you're
you
literally
fucking
all
go in,
treated equally. You're all
right?
getting
You go
fucked
in
the
a
same
fucking,
way.
you
You're all
go in a
getting.
fucking worm and you come out a soldier. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Wasn't it because you're literally doing everything together at the same time? Like, you're all doing the same PT in the morning. You're all doing the same PT test. You're all getting
yeah,
punished the same way. You're all getting talked to by the same first sergeant for the same reason. Like,
yeah. I mean, but I don't know. I don't know if your experience was different than mine, but at least in my, specifically to boot camp, I do know that we were all friendly and with each other, but we all still kind of had like our own little cliques and groups that we kind of hung out with.
well,
We
yeah.
didn't all
I
just
mean,
hang out together all at the
well,
same
yeah. I mean,
time.
you're still going to have people with similar interests hanging out.
Yeah,
But as meant, and boot camp's a little different in a sense because you still have people coming in with racism that are having to get it broken out of them.
yeah,
But by the time you're done and you're at your first duty station, like there's nobody looking at people strangely or anything. Or
yeah. No, that doesn't happen.
it's it's definitely interesting. Where part of it is a two-parter. One from so much time in the military, and then also moving up here to Bartlesville, where there's not a lot of diversity. Oh, it's almost kind of like a shock whenever I witness racism. Where I'm like, wait, that still exists? Like, oh yeah, just interesting because you just don't see it in the military.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I agree, and it's funny because it makes it really easy for me to pick out that kind of behavior outside. Like it kind of baffles me how much of it I see when it's almost hard to deny in some aspects of our society, which is really rough to live with. Um, but yeah,
Especially being in Houston, like
yeah,
you just see
yeah,
it everywhere.
yeah,
It's I mean it's almost like an everyday part of life to witness
yeah,
it when you go around Houston,
yeah,
and it's
yeah, and it's tough to see sometimes. you
yeah
know. But you know, I do appreciate the lessons and the values that they instill in the military to you know to combat that,
yeah.
and they do a really really good job of it.
And I feel like some of that came into play like whenever I first went back to Houston, and we moved into that apartment complex in the ghetto. We were
Yeah,
literally the only white couple in this entire apartment complex, but people can recognize whether you're treating them like equals or not.
right. Yeah,
And all that, I'd say training in the army of everybody's treated like equals. When I'm sitting there in the middle of the fucking projects in the ghetto of Houston, and I'm the only white
yeah,
couple, and
yeah.
I walk
Just
out
as
there
comfortable.
treating
Yeah,
them just like we're all the same. And,
yeah.
they start off with a little bit of racism towards me, like, this fucking white dude, what are you doing here? And it's like, what? This is where I live. This is where you live. What? What do you want
Yeah,
from me?
yeah.
I go, you're right. Yeah, I know. Like, now I'm gonna get my little piece of shit hoopty and go work fucking Sears. See y'all later.
Or what
Like,
are you gonna do? Get in your piece of shit hoopty and go work at fucking JC Penney? All right, cool.
yeah,
See you after work.
fuck.
Yeah,
Like, we're all here just trying to pay our damn bills, man. Fuck.
yeah,
But it's interesting that there's people out there that they wouldn't dare go live in that kind of environment. They wouldn't
yeah.
know how to act. They wouldn't know how to be.
Agreed. Like I mean, I work in Greenspoint, right? I mean, for those of you that don't know where that is, it's a not so nice area of Houston. Just it's not nice in the sense that there's unfavorable activity. It's not a nice area, right? The buildings are kind of crap. The infrastructure's kind of crap. and it has a fairly high crime rate. I mean, the nickname for Greens Point is Guns Point, because there's a lot of robberies that happen around the Greens Point Mall. But I mean, I'm just as comfortable out there as I am, out here in Katy with all the rich white people. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't make any difference to me.
Now, granted, you're not exactly hanging out there at night, but
Well, no, but you know that the military also trains you for that, right? If you don't ever put yourself in bad
Yeah,
situations, you don't have to
exactly.
worry about it. You know, teaches you very well to pick out, bad places and bad situations before you even get into them.
Yeah, being aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's another point. I don't know if it's on your list or not, but attention to detail and awareness is something that is severely lacking outside of the veteran community, in my opinion. Like,
So it can kind of be tied into some of these other ones on the list. Some of them are kind of open ended. The next one, more of a lighter side, is we had plenty of good times and plenty of bad times, which we've talked a lot about that. Like embracing the suck, like
yeah,
group mass punishment and things like that.
we both could go on literally all night just about stories on good times and bad times. Like,
I mean, I still say I have a few funny moments, but one of my key ones I always like to laugh about is that in basic training, like the one memory I could think back from 20 years ago, well, more than 20, God, like 23 this year, 23 years ago, was in basic training. I left my canteen in the laundry room, and the drill sergeant found it. And
I remember this story.
I had to do 1,000 push-ups to get my canteen back. It wasn't only one session; it had to be by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And in boot camp, at least in the army, you have a battle buddy that's like you're assigned to. Like you have to do everything together, keep it accountable to each other. Like it was my battle buddy's job just to count them for me the whole day. So it's just everywhere we went. We're on our way to breakfast, sitting there in line, knocking out a couple push-ups. I finish my food early, get down, knock out a couple push-ups, go back to the barracks, knock out some more, just all day. Just stupid things like that, but those are the lessons that got drilled into you of accountability. Like, keep track of your shit, because when it matters, it's going to be important. When you don't know where your fucking gun is, or your grenade is, or your ammo is in combat, it's going to be important. It's not going to be the drill sergeant handing your canteen back. It's going to be the enemy handing your bullets back.
Yeah. And they're not going to be handing it to you. They're throwing it at you very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still take a lot of lessons that I learned in boot camp for that kind of stuff. Like, I still implement them in my daily life. Like, I have a set of things that I do not leave the house without, right? I just don't. And so if I know that I don't want to forget something that I want to bring with me, I place it under or on top of one of these critical items.
I try that all the time.
When I go to grab it, like, I'll give you a perfect example. The other day, I brought my backpack with my laptop home from work, because I had to pull the SD card out of it to use it on the 3D printer. And so I didn't want to forget my laptop, because if I forgot my laptop, I would not be able to do my job. So I hooked my keys on the loop onto the backpack so that I knew when I go to grab my keys, I'm not going to unhook my keys from the backpack, take my keys and leave. I'm going to unhook my keys from the backpack and be like, oh, I need to bring this. Throw the backpack on my shoulder and leave.
My problem with that is I will simultaneously have like the memory of a goldfish, because I want all those things like my keys and my phone and my wallet to be in my certain pockets. Yep. And so I'll grab like the wallet off the backpack and be like, oh yeah, I need to bring that backpack. Put the wallet in my pocket and immediately just turn and just squirrel the backpack that I just had the thought process of I need to bring that.
I did that today. I swear to God, I did that today. Right? So I was dressed for work this morning, and I was going to let the dogs outside one more time before I left for work. So I'm walking through the garage to let the dogs out, and I notice I'm not wearing my watch. So I'm like, okay, cool. As soon as I go back inside, I'm gonna go grab my watch, and then I can leave for work. So I go back inside, I kennel up the dogs, and I fucking leave. And I get halfway to work, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I forgot my watch. It's like I knew that I needed to grab my watch, and I still forgot.
The good times, though, the good times are a little too hard to, not hard, but long to list. A lot of good things. Some of them are silly, some of them are long, some of them are
Yeah.
heartfelt or whatever. But
Yeah.
the bad ones, that's a little bit of shorter list, I guess, because again, with age, things that seemed like a bad time then are laughable now. You know, like the
Yeah,
1,000
exactly.
push-ups for your canteen. Like at the time, you're
Yeah.
like, "This is bullshit. It's just a fucking canteen." But now I laugh about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Others,
I've got a couple of bad times that still aren't funny to me to this day, and it kind of soured my experience on the whole. But you know, it's
well,
not worth carrying that baggage around.
yeah, well, and then for some, bad times includes the loss of life of your battle buddies and friends and whatnot. But
Yeah, exactly.
it's not
Yeah,
just I got punished. Oh dang, my life sucks. It's
yeah,
going to the funerals of your battle buddies is a bad time also, which
yeah. I mean, or of family members, that you lost that are, that you're away from, that you have to go and be there for that, you weren't able to because you were gone, and stuff like that. It's just rough.
that's also like you think about when you lose a coworker right now, you're like, oh dang, Bob died. He was a good guy. We chatted on break all the time. Yeah, he was still a good work acquaintance, but still, when the end comes, you're just like, oh dang, Bob died. Versus when your battle buddy that you went through an entire deployment with
Yeah,
died, you're like, no, that's my brother that died. That's somebody that
yeah,
I would have gave my life for died, not just Bob in accounting. You know,
yeah. I mean, I definitely I can agree with that to that in a sense. It, I mean, it's funny you bring that up because that actually just happened last weekend. One of the guys that I actually hired at my company, we ended up letting him go a couple of weeks ago because he had just some personal issues. He wasn't able to perform to the way that we needed, so we ended up letting him go. And we found out this weekend that he passed away. And that hit me, pretty hard. He only worked for the company for a few months, but I mean, I really got to know this guy, and I was the one that hired him, so I knew a lot about him already, just not even really having to talk. I mean, I read his resume, I talked about his work history. I got to know the guy in the interview. So, I mean, I knew this guy a lot better than, maybe some of the people that just work with him. Um, so yeah, I mean, it was kind of rough to hear that. But it was, yeah, that is an interesting thing to bring up for sure.
yeah, because like I mean, I just think in the like 10 years I've worked at DSR, there's probably been like 10 people for those 10 years that has died, and right now I probably couldn't even name a portion of their names,
Yeah.
and I knew every one of them, but
Yeah.
I could name the people that died while I was in the military.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least for your situation and mine, where ours differ a little bit is I think DSR is probably a significantly bigger company than mine.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Good night.
I mean, at least
Hi,
in good
Jason.
night, Grace.
And good night, stream.
Good night, Grace. But
Jason says good night.
yeah, I mean, my company there's like
You thought you were gonna do that.
there's like 20 people that work in the office, and that's it. That's like everybody. That's the whole company pretty much.
Yeah, I mean the difference in DSR, yeah, there's like 300 people in total, but like it's kind of like each department is its own little family. The
Yeah.
stream says go to sleep. What?
Mine
Oh,
is saying good night to Grace.
meow.
That's all
Like,
right. Well, that's okay. We slowed the bus down enough
yeah.
to get it going again. All right. What's
God
number
damn.
number 6 or whatever?
I thought you were saying there was something on the stream saying like an error message or something. Like, what? Go to sleep. What kind of error message is that? Fuck. Hey, speaking of which, the next one, we didn't get enough sleep.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's nothing more to add on to that. That is absolutely true.
Oh, there's plenty more to add on to that. Like the whole mantra in the army, and I don't know if this was the same for you, was the army is only required to give you 4 hours of sleep, and it doesn't have to be consecutive. 4 hours of sleep a
Yeah,
day, and it doesn't have to
yeah,
be consecutive.
yeah.
Like,
I've heard that a couple of times. I never really had to experience that too much.
it was a
Um,
regular thing. Like, oh, you're
yeah,
tired? How much sleep you get last night? 6 hours. Only
you're good.
required to give you four.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like
mean,
shit.
it definitely weighed heavy because we didn't have like, at least for me, I didn't have like a whole lot of evolutions, but the Navy were exceptionally good at a standing watch. Um, so we do that religiously. And the balls to six shifts were always pretty brutal because you work a
What?
whole
The
day.
balls to six.
Yeah, midnight to 6 a.m.
That's it.
Well, yeah,
6 hour duty. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Typically, yeah.
We had a monthly 24 hour duty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 6 to 6. But you get the next day off, which
Yeah, no,
you're
we
really
never
just
did that.
sleeping.
We never did that. We just
Oh
had
no,
6 hour shifts.
Huh?
I'm going to bed.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah. No, it was well, it was basically every day. It was for the battalion uh, building. There had to be somebody 24/7 guard or guard, maintaining the front desk basically.
Yeah.
And so
No, I mean
it was a rotation between all the companies every day. There was somebody there 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so
yeah,
like it averaged out where you had to go and do it like once every couple months.
yeah. So we never had like one person stand there for 24 hours, but there was always somebody posted 24/7, 365. And it would just we would take 6 hour shifts throughout the days. Um,
These are 24-hour shifts, and it was two
oh
people.
yeah,
So there's an NCO and a lower enlisted every time. So it's two people on
yeah,
duty, 24 hours at a time, and just every 24 hours it swaps out to two other people.
yeah. It was similar for us, but like I said, we had an NCO and then we had a lower enlisted, and it would be just 6 hours.
Like I wish it was only 6 hours. Fuck. I'll just be like,
But
all
yeah,
right, 6 hours.
Ben, to your comment, I will correct you in a way. I actually never was stationed on a boat. I worked aviation, so the aircraft that I worked on was actually too big to go on a boat. So they deployed, with the aircraft.
Uh, well, speaking of, I mean, kind of along the lines of sleep, mostly on guard duty. I also did a guard duty in an ammo storage depot, which was, I think it was 12-hour shifts. Yeah, it was like, and I pulled the short card. So I say that, so it wasn't even 12-hour shifts. There was a guard for 12 hours, and then the place was open for 12 hours. So two or three people had to guard it from like 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then they actually put that ran the ammo depot would clock in from 6 to 6 to run the place.
Yeah,
So they'd shut everything down and we just maintain one guard post and do patrols around the fence line every hour.
yeah.
But
We
that was an interesting one because it was like a I want to say like 8 foot by 4 foot shack that three of us stayed in for 12 hours a day for like 4 weeks straight.
Yeah, no, fuck that. The closest thing I got to being like anywhere near like an armory depot was in boot camp, and that's one. I mean, I guess I can relate this to one of my fun stories. When we were in boot camp and we were doing training on like the firearms training, so they were teaching you how to like, you know, draw from a holster, how to do like proper firearms changeover for watch, and then just how to shoot a gun in general. Um, I showed, in during like the actual like classroom section that I know how to fucking shoot a gun. I'm good with it. I'm fine. I don't really need this kind of information. So they pulled me and a couple of other people aside, and they were like, "All right, well, since you guys know so much and y'all are are good to go for this portion, you don't need this information. We're gonna put y'all to work." So they put us back in like the armory room for the training department, and we just sat back there and fucking loaded mags all day. Dude, my hands were literally bloodied and blistered from just loading mags all day.
Dude, I did that like every other time we went to the range.
Oh my god, dude, it was fun because our drill instructors weren't around. It was just the guys that worked in there, and so we could relax, and kind of just shoot the shit and just have a good time. So it was fun to kind of get a little break from that. It was kind of a reward for coming a little more prepared than maybe some of my, other, division mates. But it was, yeah, it was a good time.
Sleep though, the whole the getting enough sleep part. The only other thing I could add to that was roll three. Don't act like you know stuff already. Yeah, just play dumb until you're
I've
caught
got
up on.
I've got another story about that, but we can share that at a later date.
Yeah, with the sleep thing, it's one thing that has still kind of tied with me now. Partially also because of sleep apnea, but
Yeah.
is just learning how to sleep anywhere through anything.
Yes.
Like,
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because like you get fucking, especially in places like boot camp or deployments and things like
Yeah.
that. Like, you're like, all right, we got 10 minutes before we gotta shuffle off to the next spot or whatever. And you're like, fucking just pass out right there on the
Yeah.
spot.
I got a 10
Like,
minute to
woo.
take a nap. Great. I'm only gonna need 9. 1 minute to fall
Yeah.
asleep, and the rest of it will be there.
It's
Yeah,
like,
I can tell you. I can tell you. I fell asleep on halfway up a ladder one time.
I fell asleep at the gun range, like waiting my turn. Just like fucking sleeping right through bullet fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just interesting that you train yourself of what's an acceptable noise for your subconscious to ignore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say, I cannot sleep without like the TV on. Like if it's too quiet, I can't.
That's why I got a thunderstorm maker machine.
See that like the white noise machines, that stuff doesn't work for me either.
Not white noise, it's thunderstorms. Man.
Well, I mean, still, it doesn't work for me.
We bought the round Alexa thing that has a clock built onto the side of it.
Yeah.
So we have that, and Crystal got it set up with like a command just saying it's time for bed, and it starts playing a non-stop like deep thunderstorms and rain. Like it sounds like it's storming outside with the window open.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty nice.
I don't know how it is in Oklahoma, but do you get like the Texas thunderstorms out there?
Yeah,
'Cause I know you know
sometimes.
what I'm talking about.
The difference here is that it's either too cold or too hot to have the window open when it's raining. Like shit.
Yeah.
There's never like a nice sweet spot.
Yeah. I'll say that's one of the things that like I didn't really notice about Texas, and at least yeah, I mean, I guess I could just say Texas.
Did you see what Ben said?
Yeah, heart not fit for God. Sleeps
Drill,
through
that's DS notes, the drill sergeant notes. Heart not fit for God. Just sleeps through bullet fire. So, the difference is I could tell the difference between friendly and enemy fire, so we're good.
There's a very distinct and different sound from bullets going away from you and bullets coming at you.
One's going ting ting, and one's going pew pew. Oh man. So here's one that could elaborate on some of our other stories. We smoked and drank too much.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah.
drank too much. I can definitely
You
relate
want to
with.
talk
Smoke
about
too much, yeah.
let's talk about just witnessing weekly alcohol poisoning. God
Yeah,
damn.
I will say I literally spent a month straight drunk. Like I would, I really don't even know if I should be saying this, but I would wake up in the morning and take like 3 shots, and then go to work, come home from lunch, take like 2 more shots, go back to work, come home, get drunk till I passed out, and rinse repeat for like a month straight.
I hope your boss isn't listening to
Right?
this.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have those habits anymore.
No, I definitely don't. I don't. I really don't even drink that much anymore, to be honest. I got it all out of my system in my 4 years.
I witnessed a lot of stories of people over drinking, but as far as my own personal, like me experiences, only a couple times. But one was my wife actually did get like alcohol poisoning. That was an interesting night. I was at a barracks party. We went to a barracks party, so a little bit of pre-context there to go with drinking too much and bad choices. Was in the military. There was this like herbal liquor called Stroh, Stroh, that smells like a compost heap, and it was part of our initiation process of any new soldier to Germany had to drink a couple shots of Stroh. Like that's your initiation process, and then it usually was part of a barracks drunken party was where your initiation took place.
Yeah.
And me and the wife went to one for one of the new mechanics, and the wife just kept drinking and drinking and drinking like she was a fucking sponge, and went too far. And she ended up throwing up on a guy's couch. That dude, in his drunken stupor, dragged his couch outside the barracks and left it on the barracks lawn. That same night, like a window got broken on one of the entrance doors. There was the whole like common room was trashed. Like the barracks got fucked up. And this was on like a
No
Friday
story
night.
like that.
Well, then the first sergeant came through for an inspection the next morning and saw this mayhem.
Oh
So
no.
so I got recruited to come back to the barracks and help them do a full barracks party cleaning session. And
I
then
the the there was a party that we had at the barracks one time. That is the reason why there are cameras in the barracks to this day. There were no cameras in the barracks beforehand. But the Portuguese came in for like a 2 day like stay in our barracks as they were transitioning to whatever they were fucking doing. I have no idea. Um, but we had this party with all these fucking Portuguese sailors, and yeah, like the common room got fucking trashed. Like there was like couches and chairs, none of them were functional at the end. Like it was a complete fucking madhouse. And yeah, the Portuguese know how to do it. Ever since then, they put up cameras and all that shit, dude. It was a good night.
the only time, well, there's a couple times where I pushed it too far. One wasn't really much of a story. It's just like I just don't remember getting home. Like
Yeah, I've got one of those too.
it's kind of like rolling blackouts. Like I remember like leaving the bar, getting to the gate at the post, and then like waking up the next morning. Just like shit. All right, I guess I made
Yeah,
it home.
I
Like,
remember. I remember one night. Me on Fridays. The same guy that like invited me over to the barracks party where I met my friend Dylan. Every Friday after work, we would go to his barracks room and we would get drunk and we'd play Uno. So one night it was like end of the pay period. We were both kind of broke, and he had like half a handle of Svedka vodka, like the shit fucking vodka, um, in his barracks room. and we had like half a 2 liter of blue Mountain Dew. And so we're just like taking shots of this fucking shit vodka and then following it with this blue Mountain Dew. And we finally smarten up and we just kind of look at this half handle and this half 2 liter. And we're like, why are we taking shots? So we just get a pitcher and we just pour the half the handle and half the 2 liter into this fucking pitcher and go to town on it. The first and last time I was literally blackout drunk. I remember ending up on the third floor of the barracks, like puking on somebody who I didn't even really know's fucking floor, right? Um, and I remember puking, and then like standing up and being like, "All right, I'm good, I'm cool." And then I don't remember anything after that, and then I just remember waking up the next morning.
Well,
It
hopefully you
was
woke up in your bed.
yeah, I was in my barracks room in my bed. But yeah, that was wild. I didn't enjoy that experience, and I've never gotten that far since.
The only other time I drank a little too hard is when we came back from our last deployment. Came back on the 3rd of July, and me and several buddies had a plan, and this was in Hawaii. We had a plan to go to one of the smaller islands and had car rentals lined up and everything. And but the 3rd was when we were first back. So we got back like the morning of the 3rd, and we were free to do whatever we wanted the night of the 3rd. And like, man, we
Right.
all came back with that fucking deployment money. Like, we cleaned the goddamn Class 6 out. Like, each of us buying like 3, 4, 5 fucking bottles of liquor. Like, like we're feeding an army of liquor.
Yeah.
Like, but we had a plane to catch at like 6 in the morning the next morning. And we're just getting wasted the night before. Like, I literally, being drunk and responsible, went and slept in the passenger seat of my car with the door open. That way, if a police officer came by, they'd be like, obviously, I'm not trying to drive. It's like, keys aren't in the ignition. I'm in the passenger seat. Doors open. Nobody was driving anywhere. And like, we still got up and went to the fucking airport at 6 in the morning, hungover as fuck, probably still half drunk. Went to Oahu and got our car rentals and went around Oahu. But like,
Yeah.
none of us wanted to drink an ounce of liquor the actual 4th of July that we're on the other island together.
Yeah. I mean, let's pause and talk a minute about how functional drunks veterans are.
Yeah.
We can be completely fucking head over heels sloshed. You want us to go do something? All right, cool. Let's get it done.
Were your pants on during that drunken encounter, Jason? Or did you wake up
During the
hurting?
drunken, when I woke up, my pants were not on.
Did you
But
have
I
a
cannot.
pain sensation?
No, I didn't. No, I was good.
So you're just used to it by then, huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You get enough of it, you kind of acclimate, you know.
So,
Okay, and so to speak on like smoking too much, I have a story about that. Um, when I was stationed in Washington State, the base was about a 2 hour drive from the Swinomish Indian Reserve. So um, we very quickly realized that you could buy cartons of cigarettes on base for like $70 a carton. But if you went to the Indian Reserve and to go to the gas station in front of the casino, the cartons were $45. So every like 2 months, we'd pile like 6 people into a car and go out to the fucking Indian Reserve and buy like 4 or 5 cartons of smokes at a time. And then start sell. You know, some people would like sell them off for cheaper just to make some money, and some people would just hold on to them, throw them in their freezer, and not have to worry about buying smokes for 2 months.
yeah.
you know,
Well, then,
yeah.
like, shit. I've never seen people smoke more than I did in the army.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
just
mean, 90% of the population in the military smokes. That's just a
well, and
given
it's
thing.
literally like if you're not doing something, you're smoking.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like,
because I know for a fact there were at least 3 people that I knew that took up smoking just so they could take advantage of the smoke break.
well, I used to just go out there. Like I would just join them every smoke break. I would go out there. Like wasn't smoking, but I'm like, well, fuck that. If y'all are taking a break, I'm taking a break.
Yeah,
Every time they're like, "Gee, you don't even smoke." So, taking a break. God damn it. I could sit here and keep working like a fool while y'all are out there bullshitting for 10 minutes. Shit.
I will say veterans can down a cigarette faster than anybody on the planet.
Well,
Oh, man.
kind of tying into, well, several of these are tying together. Like the next one is we picked up both good and bad habits.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I
smoking and
figured.
drinking too much, but
Yeah,
most of the time that dies off. Some
I
people
figured
don't.
out. I figured out the art of looking busy.
Yeah, because you have to.
Yeah.
Oh, you ain't got
You know.
shit to do? All right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's like my go-to was one of my favorite things was just a broom, right? So if you had a broom in your hand and you looked like you were sweeping up something, nobody fucked with you about anything, right? So anytime I saw a broom, I'd just grab it and just start sweeping random shit just so the people leave me the fuck alone.
See, the trick as a mechanic is just keep a tool in your hand.
Yeah,
What you
yeah,
doing? I'm working on something. You just hold up the tool.
yeah. That's a
Yeah,
very
working on that truck
valuable.
out there.
It's a very valuable lesson I learned in the military: is perception is reality. If you look busy, you are busy.
But I mean that's kind of a good and a bad habit. You basically learn work avoidance,
Yeah.
but
You
also,
also learn time management.
yeah.
You know.
So I laugh about the people that try and get away with work avoidance. Like we get, just stories from everywhere I've gone, and I've had a lot of job experience, and it's just crazy watching people like spend more time trying to not work and doing it wrong. And you just look like an idiot when you get caught. You're just like, why did you think that was the way? And like
Yeah.
the part of you that, it's kind of like the bad habits in the army. You want to be like, dude, I could tell you how to get away with it. Like, it's
Yeah,
not
it's like
hard.
yeah, it's like listen, if you're trying to do it this way, that's fine, but you're going about it all wrong.
Yeah.
Like
So it's been an
let me teach you how to be
awkward
a professional dirtbag.
part of the E4 mafia.
Yeah, that's right.
But and then kind of rolling into that one also was the we worked hard and played harder.
Yeah.
Where it's
Hmm.
kind of the same thing. Like you'll almost never see a harder working group of individuals,
Yeah.
just busting their ass. And most of the time that continues outside, which is why,
Yeah.
a lot of employers have like a veteran preference hiring because in general,
They have a
that
better work
guy
ethic.
is going to give you more of an effort than the next individual.
Yeah. It's all about work ethic.
But at the same time,
That guy
we
also
also
knows how to
play harder.
and we know how to do a whole lot less work and make it look like we're doing a lot.
Well, yeah, that too. I was just on that point of work harder, play harder. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna be one of your best workers, but goddamn, when it's time to dick off, I'm a dick off extraordinaire. Like you
Oh
come in
yeah.
there and like, are you building a fort in the middle of the office? What? Uh, well, I was. But now you're looking like this is frowned upon. Like,
It's like, what, you mean to tell me I don't have anything to do? I can do what I want? All right, bet. We're grilling burgers in the warehouse right now.
yeah.
Like,
Same thing, like, I mean, at least as mechanics and just soldiers in the army in general, like any kind of downtime when you were together was time to practice hand to hand combat training.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm just gonna sit there and hold a story or talk about your weekend. It's like,
It's like, let's fight.
you ready to go?
We had that. We had that in boot camp. We had a little fight club because the way that our berthing was set up for boot camp is we had it was like a big rectangle with just bunks around the outside of the room. Um, and then on the outside of the room, there was a couple of doors. You had like one that was like a supply closet that had like the mop bucket and the cleaning supplies and all that stuff. And then we had another room which had like the washers and dryers to like wash all the clothing. And then inside of that room, there was another door that had the drying room where they would hang up all the ditty bags full of shit for the clothes to dry. Um, and at night, after the drill instructor would leave and they would shut the lights off, people that got pissed off or whatever, like rather than like in Full Metal Jacket, they'll beat you into your fucking bed with some fucking socks. Like we just took whoever we had a problem with into the fucking drying room and beat the fuck out of each other for a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
and then walk out, hand around shoulders, like, all right, well, good fight.
No, we always looked at it as, literally like training. The more we
Yeah,
practice
yeah.
wrestling each other, the more we're ready for that hand-to-hand combat training when it really counts.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We didn't learn any kind of CQC really in the Navy in boot camp, so we kind of had to take it upon ourselves. But
We had, some not like regular training. Like every couple of years, you'd get the opportunity to do that. Uh, but it would be like squad based or platoon based, like hand to
yeah,
hand combat training.
yeah. I mean, the Navy does teach like hand to hand and CQC kind of stuff, but that's more focused on like that's all dependent on your MO.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you weren't like a MP or something like that, like you probably weren't doing any of that.
Well, I guess I've always seen it as it's a skill that every soldier could use at some point. You never know
Yeah,
when you're gonna
sure.
need hand to hand combat training. Doesn't matter if you're a clerk or a cook or
Yeah,
fucking
for sure.
whatever.
I agree. I that was one of the things that I was really hoping I would get a chance to learn, and we just didn't.
Well,
Like, I
next
mean,
time we're together, I'll teach you some
yeah.
things.
Listen, we always do that whenever we're hanging out. We're always fucking with each
Yeah, but
other.
this time I'll just teach you instead of putting you to sleep.
Oh, okay. All right.
Uh,
No, I mean, me and Garrett used to do that shit all the time. I mean, you remember me and Garrett used to
yeah,
fucking wrestle in the front yard all the fucking time.
yeah, we all did, except nobody wanted to play with me.
Well, yeah, because nobody could put our arms around you. Like, how are we gonna fucking choke you out? Like, your neck is as big as my fucking wingspan. Like,
Got to try harder. So now we're finally getting on to different subjects. We got the next one is we didn't earn a great wage, which is an interesting topic. Where if you look at it as just how much I made per hour,
yeah, I
even
mean,
if
it's
you
not
put it
great.
as a 40-hour week, it's pretty shitty. But the amount of benefits you fucking get is
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
astronomical.
the thing is,
100% full medical dental vision
right?
of
Yeah, I mean,
any kind. No
yeah,
co-pays, no nothing. Just if I want to get all new fucking teeth tomorrow because I feel like it, I can just
yeah. I
go
mean,
in and get it done.
that's the thing about military wages is that money is pretty much 100% disposable income. Like,
Yeah.
your food is paid for, your healthcare is paid for. You don't have any fucking bills. Like, all that money that you're making, you can kind of just do whatever you want with.
Yeah. Difference between married and single soldiers, but as a
Yeah,
married
yeah, that's
soldier, it's a little different. Like, but still, my rent and
but
utilities is paid for.
yeah, I mean, but
I
even
have
with that,
full
right? Like,
medical, dental, and vision, and even my spouse had like full medical and like partial dental and vision or something. I forget what it was, but she was almost 100% covered as well
yeah,
for
but like
free.
even at another level, like for married versus single, like married, you still get your regular paycheck and you get BAH on top of that. So it's
Well,
like,
yeah, but that covers your rent and utilities. What I
yeah,
also get though is I get the fuck, I forget what it's called for being married. I just get more money for being married. But yeah, essentially, yeah, all you really need to pay for is like your internet, your phone, maybe your
Yeah.
groceries, you know.
Your car note if you have one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So it's like, you know, your cost of living is a lot lower.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't have to pay for any kind of medical, vision, dental.
Yeah, I mean, so the actual number isn't very big, but it goes a long way because you don't really have all the normal expenses.
And, you know, there's a few other little fringe benefits of every month was at least a 3, sometimes 4 day weekend.
Yep.
You're typically only working Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
Granted, in the army, because you didn't do like the whole morning PT. So for me, it was basically like 6 to 5. So it was like a fucking 11-hour day, 5 days a week. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I was putting in, you know, it's the equivalent of 55 hours a week.
Yeah. Same.
But I had every weekend off. And then once a month was a 3 or 4 day weekend. And you had guaranteed of, what was it, like 2 weeks of vacation a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, the fact that and you basically have holidays off too. But that kind of was always where the 3 and 4 day weekends would roll together.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I got free medical, dental, vision. I get a 3 to 4 day weekend off every month. I get weekends off year round. I get 2 weeks of paid vacation. All my expenses are paid. The only thing I gotta pay is for phone, internet, car payment, and groceries. Like, shit. Like, yeah, even if I am only making $1,000 a month, I mean, that's
That's a lot of
pure
fucking money.
spending money.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, but it is a shit wage though, because you think about it, then when I get, you know, when you're doing, you know, guard duty and shit like that, or you get called in on the weekend, like you're on call 24/7
Yeah.
is
Like
the
if they call
difference.
you, you
Like,
need to come
and
running.
it's not like I'm getting paid extra when I get called in.
Yeah. There's no overtime.
Shit. It's that same paycheck every time, no matter whether I work 40 weeks or 40 hours or 100 hours.
In the civilian sector, they call that salary.
Nah, not even that much though. But yeah, it's definitely it's hard to compare that to any other job because there
Yeah.
really isn't
I mean, you
any
really
other
can't.
job like that.
Yeah, you really can't.
But it is kind of funny. Like I still remember that like cadence was like the they say that in the army that the pay is mighty fine. They give you $100 and take back 99.
Yeah.
It's like it definitely feels like it when you're like first starting out as a private. You're getting like, you know, $900, and that's if you live in the barracks and eat at the fucking chow hall every
Chow hall,
meal, and
yeah.
you know, shit.
And let's talk about Chow Hall real quick, okay? I was I was on both of the bases that I spent the most of my time on. At one point in time, had been awarded the best galley in the Navy. At one point in time, the food still sucked.
I mean, a lot of people have always talked shit about chow halls, but if you take it for what it is,
Free
it's
food,
not.
yeah, it's
Well,
not.
I mean, not just free food, but I mean, it's not like you were getting shit from like the Family Dollar mystery meat section in the fucking frozen aisle. You know, I mean, it was still all decent food. It was just made in such mass quantities that it wasn't exactly like some fine dining.
I mean, I had a working theory that everything that came out of the galley came out of a can at some point.
A lot of it. I mean, I had to do details in the chow hall several times, so I got to see behind the scenes in the chow hall. So I got to see how a lot of that shit's made back there. And it's like, honestly,
Yeah,
it's for how it's made, the version that you get is fine. And again, they're having to make something that's palatable to everybody.
yeah,
So they can't exactly make it too spicy, too sweet, too anything. You know, they can't use anything exotic or crazy.
yeah, yeah. It's got to be allergen free and fucking all that shit. I mean, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, when you put it into that perspective, yeah, it was fine. I mean, I say the food sucked because it did, but taking it for what it is, yeah, I mean, it's not horrible. It could definitely be worse.
I tell you what, though, I've never had better breakfast than in the fucking army, though.
Oh,
Especially if you're at a chow hall that had an omelet station. The
yes.
fact that I can go and get a fresh, made in front of me fucking omelet
Yep.
every morning, 7 days a week, if I wanted to.
Yep. Biscuits and gravy, whatever you
And
want,
yeah,
man. They've
and then you
got it.
get unlimited bacon, unlimited sausage,
Yeah.
unlimited everything. Like 18, well, not 18, maybe 10 different kinds of fresh cut fruit and shit. I mean, just
Yeah.
every single thing you could possibly want to eat for breakfast was available to you
In
every
unlimited quantities
morning
every
as a
morning.
buffet.
Yeah.
Like,
I did appreciate the breakfast. They had like tons of different kinds of cereals and like apple. Yeah, I will say one of my fondest like foods that I still like crave to this day. I've only been able to find at boot camp, and what it was is it was those Nature Valley like honey and oat like
granola bars.
bars
Yeah.
like granola bars. So in boot camp they had it was a Nature Valley honey and oat granola bar cereal. And essentially all it was those granola bars just like crushed up and put in like one of those cereal hoppers.
Yeah.
And so I'd fill that with a bowl and put some milk in it and it was fucking amazing.
Yes, Garrett.
Yeah,
Unlimited
unlimited
bacon.
bacon.
Now, granted,
Mhm.
it was the paper thin shit bacon, but it's
Yeah,
still unlimited.
they made it in the microwave. It looked like and felt like they'd made it in the microwave, but
Nah, pretty much everything's boiled, but or what is
bacon.
that called? Like double boiled or broiled?
Oh,
Broiled,
broiled.
yeah.
Broiled, yeah.
But still unlimited.
Yeah.
And sausage patties and sausage links sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
Yeah, no.
sometimes like what do you call it? Like smoked sausage? You know, like you would have for dinner, like split sausage or whatever.
Yeah, and I remember at least one the galley in Pensacola had a nacho bar.
Well, we're just talking about breakfast, but yeah.
But yeah, I mean I mean we're talking about food in general. We kind of settled on breakfast, but like every galley that I've ever been to had like a full salad bar, which was cool. Every galley that I've been to had like they had like the whatever they were serving for that day, and then they had like a separate line that had like burgers and hot dogs every
Yeah.
day. And then the one in Pensacola had that stuff. It had like a carousel with like a bunch of different desserts, like pies and cakes and stuff
Mm-hmm.
on it. And then they had a nacho bar, so you could make nachos for lunch every fucking day if you wanted to.
Jesus.
Gizmo.
So anyway, this next one, you may or may not have. Well, the second half of it, I'm sure, but the first half you might not have actually experienced. Maybe in like boot camp or something. So it says we experienced the happiness of mail call and the sadness of missing important events.
Yeah, yeah,
When I think mail call, I don't think all the way back to boot camp. I think of like during my deployments, because like mail would come like once a month.
yeah. No, I mean, I never got to deploy, so if I ever got mail, I had a PO box. I could just go pick it up from the PO box. But I mean, during boot camp, yeah, we had mail calls every Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean at my duty station I had a PO box, but when I was deployed though, it was they would go and get mail for the company like once a week, and
Yeah,
literally everybody group up and they'd call your name out and hand it to you
yeah,
just like it was in boot camp. I'm like, yeah, those are even though you're still getting like my first deployment was where it was really a good moment to get something in mail because there was no phone calls for 6 months. All I had was mail for
yeah,
6 months. No internet, no phone calls, no nothing for 6 months. And so like yeah, getting that letter in the mail during that first deployment was like, oh shit. Signs of
Contact to the
life.
outside
Yeah.
world. Yeah.
It's like getting a letter in prison. You're like, oh man. The second one though, not so much because I actually had internet in my tent on a laptop. There was a little Connex turned into a phone station booth that you could use phone, or what are those called? Calling cards, or the cards of the minute? I forget what those are called because they don't exist anymore. Or they might exist. I don't know. They're not as common anymore. And I could literally call the wife every day if I wanted to, and I typically did talk to her every day on like Skype and shit.
Yeah.
So it was much different the second deployment. That was more the excitement of getting a package in the mail of all the shit I was asking for.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I always look for. It's like, man, I miss like this. You can't find it out here. Like, yeah.
Shit, I was just getting some baby wipes, man. Shit, getting baby wipes and all kinds of
I'll tell you
random
one thing you
things.
never ran out of though. Rippets.
Nope. Had those by the fucking
Always-
pallet.
Always had those, man.
Shit. Now, the one thing, me and my one buddy that was from Austin, we lived in the same town, or both living that like Texas dream of we can't live without sweet tea kind of thing.
Yeah.
We would convince because it had a little like shopette, out of a Connex as well, that mostly just supplied the basics. But every now and then,
Little small commissary.
yeah, well, no, commissary is the grocery store. This is a shopette, like a gas station kind of thing.
Oh, okay. All right.
They would every now and then get cases of Arizona sweet tea, the Southern style sweet tea,
Yeah.
and like we started convincing them to order like 4 cases at a time, and like we'd roll up to that bitch, like everybody like waiting in line to buy like 1 or 2 cans. They see us at the back of the con, and it's like, oh, hey, we got your order up here, and we walk up there and like each walk out with like 2 cases of fucking Arizona sweet tea, like store them underneath our cot in the tent, like, yep. Sweet tea every day. Just little things like that. Like I wasn't getting that in the mail, but it was like that moment, like you make your like weekly trip to the little shop bed, and you're like, oh, because you like shipments come in on like Sundays or something,
Yeah.
So you come in on Sunday, like, oh, did it come in today? Did it come? Oh, not yet. Ah, damn. All right, next Sunday. Come in there, and they're like, boom, 4 fucking cases of Arizona sweet tea stacked up. Your eyes just light up like it's Christmas Day over something stupid.
Yeah. No, I never really got to experience that. I always had a commissary that we could go to. Like I said, I didn't get the opportunity to deploy anywhere.
But we still both got to experience the second half, the sadness of missing important events.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you can only go on leave X amount of times. You can't just,
Yeah.
you're not just down the road anymore. You got to like
Yeah.
plan a trip to attend any kind of event.
Yeah.
And that's why.
And then it's one of those things where you have like this 2-week vacation and you spend most of it going around to everybody that wants to see you.
Yeah.
And it's like by the end of my time in the military, it was like, listen, I'm going on leave. I'm going to be at my dad's house. If you want to come see me, you can fucking come see me. If not, if you don't come see me, then you don't want to see me that bad. I'm not playing that anymore.
Well, that kind of ties back to what we were talking about before about, me being gone for so long, where it's like, there's no way I was going to come to everybody's wedding and everybody's graduation and everybody's everything. Just like,
Yeah.
sorry, I can still love you all, but it's basically like asking you to spend your paid time off.
Yeah.
Like ain't nobody fucking coming up here to see my special events. Get the fuck up here, so nobody should expect me to do the same.
Yeah.
Nobody was flying to Germany. Fucking go to my award ceremony or something. Like, shit.
Yeah.
But it was still kind of sad. Where you get to hear about all the things happening instead of witnessing them.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people just don't even get to experience that in a normal life, like where you grew and lived in the same town or area where you're always like an hour away from anybody's event going on.
Yeah.
You know, you look at, like, say, Garrett, you know, he's available to go to, like, every nephew's, every cousin's, every brother's, sister, uncle's, dad's birthday party if he
Yeah.
wanted to. You can literally go to everything. Me, I'm like, all right, I get like one time a year that I'm coming down. How can I maximize it? Like,
Yeah. And the vacation turns into like work almost.
yeah. All right, that was mail call and important events. The next one is kind of on the same lines. We didn't even know when we didn't know when or even if we were ever going to see home again. My business.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true and not true at the same time. Like, at least in the Navy, I know deployments sometimes can get extended and stuff like that. So, I mean, when you go on a deployment, you really don't know, when you're gonna be back. Uh, but in another sense, like if you ever did want to just go home and come back, you could just take leave if you have it,
Well, I think that
and
one's more tied into like
every
combat
year.
deployments. You know, like
Yeah,
you
for
don't know
sure.
if you're coming home.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak on that because I was never put in that kind of situation, so I have no thoughts on that particular subject.
Which, you know, that one's kind of obvious, but, you know, it's another thing that it's hard to explain that mindset on to somebody that just goes to their standard 9 to 5 job. You know, you're never worried when you go to work at Walmart. Yeah, maybe in certain areas of Houston, you're not too worried about whether you're making it home that night. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
you typically just go to work, clock in, do your hours, come home. You're like, you're never really worried for your life. You know,
yeah,
you might be a little cautious depending on what neighborhood you're in, but you're never just thinking like, man, I hope I wake up tomorrow.
yeah,
Like, hope I don't get mortared tonight.
yeah,
Like, shit. If you're in a bad neighborhood, maybe you're hoping there's not a drive-by or something, but you're definitely not worried about a mortar.
yeah. Mortar is a lot scarier than a drive-by. I can tell you
Yeah.
that right now.
Yeah, there's a good one. The one that wanted. I was hoping to get through the whole list, but definitely wanted to get to this one. It's pretty funny one if you really think about it. Where it says we grew up fast and yet somehow we never grew up at all.
It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, that really kind of ties into like work hard and playing harder. It's like when it's
Yeah.
time to buckle down and get shit done, we're your guys for it, But when it's time to dick around and have some fun, like we're gonna put on the best fucking party there ever was,
Yeah.
you know.
It's just for the sit down, shut the fuck up and do what I said when it's time to work.
Yeah.
But when it's time to play, it's like, why aren't you wearing your hat? And why are your pants still on? Let's go. like, like, weren't you the same person like chewing me out for punctuation earlier? Yeah. What about it? It's
Yeah.
just, but that also just comes not just the playing hard, but it's also I feel like at least with the veterans I have hung out, we always kind of have that playful mentality. We're always
Yeah.
giving each other shit. We're always having a good time, keeping it light as possible. You know,
Yeah.
as
I
far
mean,
as not growing up. Whereas,
yeah. I
like,
mean, you kind of have to.
well, I just meant like when I think of part of that might be some of our generations nowadays compared to others, but when I think of like when our parents were 40, like they weren't acting like me.
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny because like I always think about it. It's like back when I was younger, I always thought the adults had everything together and had all the answers, and it's like now I'm the adult and I don't know shit. Like we're fucked.
what I just meant
It's
like we were just talking earlier, like the next time we're together, me, you, and Garrett are gonna be wrestling.
yeah.
We weren't seeing Jeff wrestle anybody at age 40,
No,
right?
no, no.
And that's kind of the, some of that is just our generation. Some of that is, like I said, the military. We're like, we always want to play.
Well, yeah, I mean, but
We,
that ties in a lot to just being in the kind of same situation, right? Like you kind of have to try and keep things light and fun as much as possible, especially when the entire mantra is embrace the suck. You have
yeah,
to do everything in your power to make sure that it doesn't suck as much as possible. you know
which
and a
is
lot
why,
of that just stems from just you know
I think
being
that's
an
why it
idiot.
carries over even when you're out
Yeah.
of the military. You're used
Yeah,
to
you learn
like,
to appreciate the downtime.
yeah, well, because like you said, not just embrace the suck, but you're like, at any moment we could die. Ha ha
Yeah,
ha.
yeah,
Let's have a
yeah.
good time while we're not dying.
Yeah, exactly. You learn to embrace the time that you do have, the little free time that you do have, and take the maximum advantage of it.
And while it might make me look immature, it's, believe me, when it's time to be serious, I'm the most serious motherfucker in the room.
Yeah,
But when it's time to play around, I'm like a fucking 5-year old with ADD. Just
yeah,
uh, yeah, this one kind of ties back to something we were talking about at the beginning. We fought for our freedom as well as the freedom of others. Kind of like the Afghanistan thing. We're
yeah,
not just fighting to quote unquote keep America free. We're playing Big Brother, trying to keep
yeah. I mean,
everybody else free.
yeah, yeah. I mean that we've pretty much already touched on that
Yeah.
one. I think.
But I mean, tying into just American citizen freedom, you are making that volunteer sacrifice to make sure the people that do want to just stay in town and live their civilian life can.
Yeah, I mean it's like we're up, on duty so that y'all can sleep soundly in your beds.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. That was one, something that I heard over and over and over again that really kind of resonated with me. It's like, yeah, we're out here fucking embracing the suck so that you guys don't have to.
At
You
least
know.
that's what we're told. and
Yeah. I
it's
mean, when you get told something enough times, you just start to believe it. You
yeah,
know.
but it's funny. Like I said, now after being out for a while and after getting older, when I start like analyzing some of those mantras, it's like it's like, is it though?
Yeah.
Like sure, as far as the things we're doing in house, yeah. And like if our army just stayed in America and protected America and kept getting better and maybe like branched out like kind of like the National Guard, like helping make America great, like utilize the resources to help our country more,
Yeah.
then sure. But when we spend way too many resources and manpower
years
playing Big
in
Brother.
other countries. Yeah.
It's like, man, like it's hard to be as convinced that what I'm doing is helping the freedom of my fellow Americans.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
I mean, in my situation, I think I see things a little bit differently, and I kind of resonate with that
Garrett,
sentiment a
have a
little
good
bit
night.
more. Um, Good night, Garrett. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that sentiment a little bit more because I mean, at least the stuff that I was doing, most of the work that I put in, um, went towards stateside safety, right? So the aircraft that I worked on was a P-3 Orion, and that aircraft specialized in submarine hunting. And so what that aircraft would do is it would go and it would patrol the coasts of the country and look for submarines that aren't supposed to fucking be there. So, I mean, in a way, yeah, me working on these aircraft and keeping these aircraft, battle ready at all times was to protect our borders, right? And so it was, it's a little different for me,
Yeah,
at least.
at least you were indirectly, or maybe, I mean, yeah, I guess it would be indirectly would be the right
Yeah.
word, protecting the country. Whereas,
Yeah.
me, like my one deployment was with the engineers, and we laid the fuel pipe from Kuwait to Iraq. So all I did was like help us invade two countries.
Yeah.
And then my second deployment was with the military police, and all we were doing was policing another country.
Yeah. It's
So
like,
it's like, I'm like, I don't know, there's nothing, none of the units I was with, maybe other than like the training unit in Germany, because we're helping train soldiers. But again, we were in Germany. Like, why are we not
yeah.
just, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that's
why
like
can't we do that stateside?
I mean, I guess you
You
could
know?
call that, a strategic standpoint. We're not trying to take over Germany. We just happen to be in Germany.
Well, I mean, the reason why we have troops in Germany is because Germany isn't allowed to have their own.
Yeah, they are.
So, well, now they are, but for a long time
Hmm.
they weren't able to.
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a coalition kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
different than
Yeah.
Iraq and Afghanistan, whatnot.
Yeah, places that we have no business being to begin with.
Yeah. Where were we? No, and we're still on the whole freedom of others one, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, this one seems weird. I mean, yeah. Well, and I kind of forgot the whole main title of this was things you need to know about. To understand a veteran, you must know these things. And this one is kind of a good point between me and you. Maybe. I guess I didn't necessarily see combat, but so some of us saw actual combat and some of us didn't. And
Yeah.
I just kind of attribute that to a combat deployment versus
Yeah.
not.
I think that really kind of just goes without saying. Like, not every person in the military is ever. I mean, there are some people that go their entire military careers when only picking up a weapon during boot camp. Like, that's
Well,
that's
you
just
still
a
got to
fact.
qualify, like once a
Well,
year.
in the Navy, if your job does not require you to carry a handgun, you do not have to requal for that. You qual in boot camp, and that is your qual for the rest of your time if your profession does not require you. Now, that being said, it's different for if you're on a boat. So if you're on a ship, yes, you do have to requal, and you do
Well,
have to
because
continue
technically your
training.
job at that point, your job location requires you to have the training.
Right, exactly. But for me, I got sharpshooter rank in boot camp, and then that was it. I didn't touch another firearm the rest of my time.
See, that's so weird. I mean, I guess that's the difference in the army. It's so I don't know if it's actually documented anywhere now, but at least we were told this, and that's what we always repeated to each other: was that you have your primary MOS and then your secondary MOS, and everybody's secondary MOS is 11 Bravo infantry.
Yeah.
And so that was like the reasoning behind like this is why we want y'all practicing hand-to-hand combat. This is why every year we do the rifle qualification. And then any other qualifications like machine gun, grenade launcher, the 9mm pistol, or anything like that, that would be specific to your profession.
Yeah.
If you're in the MPs, you need to qualify with a 9mm and your rifle, because your primary MOS requires you to qualify with the 9mm. Your secondary infantry requires you to qualify with the rifle.
Yeah. I mean, in the Navy, it's even more refined than that. Like, you don't qualify for rifle unless your job requires it. Everybody qualifies on pistol, but on rifle, unless you're like an MP or like a master at arms or something like that, you do not.
Yeah,
even
but
really
that's
touch a
because the
rifle.
primary weapon is a pistol. You don't want a bunch
Yeah.
of rifles on a
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah.
Like I said, but us, your primary MOS is infantry, which you would have a rifle.
Yeah.
But it is interesting though, like I think even I had this like kind of not really misunderstand. I just never really put any thought into it until like that first QuakeCon we were together, where I was like, "No, you're not a veteran," because I was thinking combat veteran. I was in my head for some reason in the early days. I had it as like ex-military, and combat veteran.
Oh, yeah.
Like is how I had it in my head.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely is a big difference between a regular veteran and a combat veteran. I will tell you that.
Well, and even then, combat veteran has a wide scale as well. You know,
Yeah.
there's a big difference between the motherfucker in the trenches shooting people, has X
Yeah.
amount of kills under his belt, kind of shit.
And then the guy that's like on the back lines running the fucking radios, you know,
You know, or
like,
me fixing the cars. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
like
right.
I was a mechanic. You know, like yeah, I still went outside the fob or whatever the base. You know, went on a couple patrols and stuff here and there.
Yeah, it's like
But
you probably heard shots being fired, but you were never actually actively getting shot at.
not in the direct sense. No.
Yeah.
Now we did have constant mortar attacks on the base. Like there's literally mortars landing inside of our base, like almost every other night.
Yeah,
So
that's fucking terrifying, dude.
yeah,
That's
you know,
so fucking scary. To
just
think
just
that at any
12
moment you could
months.
just fucking blow up, dude.
I mean, if you think about that rough math, so 365 days, and every other day there was mortars blowing up in the
Your
middle of
odds
the
are
night.
stacked against you.
No, I just meant that's what's 365 divided by 2, so 180. Yeah,
Yeah.
so 180 times in a year I was woken up to mortar fire, put on my full combat plate vest, and went and sat inside of a little bunker for like 30 minutes, and then go
Yeah.
back to sleep afterwards.
Yeah.
Like you wake up
Yeah.
to bombs going off, go stand in a
Yeah.
bunker at 2 in the morning for about 30 minutes, and again, sleeping anywhere. You're literally like
That shit.
sleeping, leaning against a wall inside the bunker, and they're like, "All clear, go back to bed."
Yeah.
You're
I
like,
mean, that's the kind of shit that like that puts puts you in a different bracket of veteran, if you will.
"Well, yeah."
Like
I
just
was
because
saying
you
that
were
just to
never
explain the
actively
combat
involved in
veteran thing,
combat.
where it's
Yeah.
like I was in a combat zone, so I'm
That's
technically a combat veteran,
exactly.
but
That's the way that I see it. If you were ever stationed in the combat zone, you are a combat veteran.
yeah, but even still, though, when I compare myself to other combat veterans, like I'm at the bottom of the tier.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah, sure.
compared to like others, they're like, my convoy got blown up by fucking IEDs and I dragged my buddy's bloody carcass across the street. And you're like, Jesus, I just went and sat in a bunker for 30 minutes. All right, my bad.
Right, right, dude. Yeah,
Like same thing, like even like with me, trying to push with the VA to get PTSD, where it's like, yeah, I have PTSD from things like the mortars and just the constant like high threat mentality of just
yeah,
always being on alert. But yeah, I wasn't shooting at people. I didn't have bullets flying at me. I wasn't dragging my buddies out of fucking blown up cars and shit. Like some
yeah,
people have PTSD, and I just
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, I'm a little fucked up, but god damn.
yeah. I mean, it's there's a term for that, and I used it earlier. It's called imposter syndrome. Um, and it's a really common thing, but I really don't think, at least to speak towards your situation with the PTSD, like that kind of stuff affects everyone differently, right? So like you can have people out there that have had to go through those grueling experiences that come out of it on the other end completely fine and completely normal, and then you have people that go through things that are at a much lesser extent, a far lesser extent, that get even more fucked up than some people that have been through the hard stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, it affects everybody differently, and just because you weren't that guy doesn't discredit the effect that being in that situation had on you.
Yeah. It still always makes me feel a little guilty though,
Yeah,
when
I mean
like
it can, but you shouldn't.
because when you go off of like a little like PTSD, I mean not a PTSD checklist, but like I said, when you just compare yourself to like the people that have like traumatic experiences,
Yeah,
which again, still, I mean, yeah, mortars going off around me is traumatic,
yeah.
but
I mean, it definitely makes you feel like a pussy. All right, like, but I don't know. I've really started to try and like change my outlook on that kind of stuff. Like mental health is extremely important in my opinion. Like and really that your experiences and your trauma and whatever you want to call it is 100% valid and 100% important because it affects everybody differently. um
Well, yeah.
like me, for example, like I know for a fact I have a lot of PTSD style tendencies and feelings. um and could I tell you where they come from or why I feel that way or why I get uneasy in these situations? Based on my experiences, no, I have no real reason to to be
Rationalize it.
that bothered. Yeah, I have no way to like rationalize why I feel that way and why these certain situations bother me in the way that they do. But I just have to keep reminding myself and recognizing the fact that I don't have to know why. Because whether I know why or not is not going to change the fact that I still have these feelings and I still have
I
these
mean,
issues and I still have these
to a
problems.
certain extent. I mean, if you look at it from like a therapist standpoint, recognizing the origin of trauma can help you overcome
Yeah,
it.
sure.
but
Maybe.
but it could just simply be the, again, just the heightened sense of awareness that you're taught as a soldier.
Yeah, I mean it's beaten into your literally beaten into your skull. Like it it's indoctrinating. It's really what it is. I mean they've designed the system in a way where everybody comes in different and everybody leaves exactly the same. You know,
Yeah.
so
Well, hey, speaking on that same, well, a couple of the same subjects here. So it says some of us saw the world, some of us didn't. And
yeah.
that's kind of like me going to Germany and Hawaii and Iraq and Kuwait, and you went to Florida.
Florida and Washington State. Yeah,
Yeah.
get fucking whooped. You know.
But even then, I mean, still saw the world. But then you got other people that, they live in Houston and went to Fort Hood, and
Yeah.
then came back.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like they
that's
never
it.
left here. Yeah.
And then others here, we got, some of us dealt with physical warfare. Most of us dealt with psychological warfare.
Yeah, big
And,
time.
that,
I think all of us deal with a little bit of psychological warfare.
yeah. And that also ties into what we were talking about, like the different scales of combat veterans. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, in my head, yeah, the guy that was drugging his battle buddy's carcass out of the flaming Humvee has way more physical warfare trauma compared to my psychological warfare of just dealing with waking up to mortars every other night.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. It like I said before, it's difficult to rationalize the difference there, and it's important to realize that you shouldn't and you really can't. You
yeah,
know.
what cat? Uh, let's see. Dang, I thought we were actually near the bottom. Or maybe when you start slamming through some of these. Let's see. We have seen and experienced and dealt with things that we can't fully describe or explain,
Yeah.
as not all of our sacrifices were physical.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we're talking about there. Like you can't even fully describe it or explain it. It's just there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, and not only that, just like the little small like idiosyncrasies of the work, the type of work that we do. It's like if you weren't there and you didn't do it as also, there's just no way to explain it. Like,
yeah,
you
which
know,
is kind of what I was thinking when I was reading through some of these things in this list initially. I was like, oh, this is a pretty good talking point because some of these things you never really think about until you're reading a list like this, and you're like, huh.
yeah.
Like this one, for example, we participated in time-honored ceremonies and rituals with each other, strengthening our bonds. And
Oh yeah. I mean, I think in the Navy, a perfect example of something like that is like your shellback ceremony. Um, for those of you who don't know what a shellback ceremony is it's a ceremony that is held on a boat after a sailor's first time crossing the equator and back. Um, So there's this big ceremony that happens on the boat. Anytime you have a couple of first time sailors that they cross the equator and then they come back to the other hemisphere again. It's you now have this title of being a shellback, and although it doesn't really mean anything to anybody, you still have that kind of camaraderie with other shellbacks because they've had that experience.
Like I could kind of compare that to like even just I don't know if you've ever been part of like flag duty. You got to go and
Yeah,
like raise the
yeah,
flag
like
and lower
honor
it.
guard. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, honor guard.
that little kind of ceremony.
Yeah. Hmm.
Just there's a lot of little ceremonies. I mean, not little ceremonies. There's a lot of ceremonies in the military. Like,
Yeah, a lot.
change of command, big ass fucking ceremonies from like a battalion change of command versus a company change of command.
Yeah.
The flag ceremonies, funeral ceremonies.
You've got like your pinning ceremonies and your flocking
Yeah, all your
ceremonies and your
your
fucking
rank and rewards and whatnot. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
you get your military balls every year. I mean,
Yep. Hmm.
so a lot of things that in your typical Monday through Friday work environment, you're not seeing any of that kind of shit.
Yeah. There's a great deal of pride around that kind of stuff. Like it seems excessive, but every single person that attends those events takes that stuff 100% serious.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we got here. We counted on each other to get our job done, and sometimes to survive it at all.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
That goes without saying.
it's not just sharing your workload with the coworker at the office.
Yeah.
Because you know the difference is like in the military, if you didn't get your job done, you were both staying late.
Yeah.
Like, so you're gonna have to work together. Versus here, just somebody's gonna get yelled at, and you're still both going home at 5.
Yeah.
We've dealt with victory and tragedy.
Yeah.
That's for multiple levels of reasons that we've kind of gone over several times. Same thing with we've celebrated and mourned,
Yeah.
kind of for a lot of the same reasons we've talked about. We lost a few along the way. Same
Yeah.
thing as mourning and tragedy and whatnot. When our adventure was over, some of us went back home, some of us started somewhere new, and some of us never came home at all.
Yeah. That's
So
definitely true.
it's a very interesting standpoint. I think of several people I've known over the years were like one of my, probably top 5 military friends that I still keep in touch with. We met in Germany, and well, sort of funny story before the back of that. He was an E6 and I was like an E3. No, I was E4 at the time.
Mhm.
Maybe E3. But and he joined me in Warcraft, and I was the raid leader over him. So it was just always kind of a running joke where like he was in charge of me at our job, but then after work I'm in charge of him. And that's another thing that's hard to separate in the civilian world. Where like you can separate things like that when we're at work, it's rank structure. When we're out of work, it's friends.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of the only professions where you can sustainably maintain that difference.
Yeah. And I don't even remember where he was originally from, but both him and his wife were from somewhere in the 48 states. Went to Germany together. Then he went and became a drill sergeant for like fucking 6 years. Then he went and got stationed in Hawaii and just retired in Hawaii and just stayed there. Like, so
Yeah,
went from, did his full 20 years or 20 plus, I think. And,
yeah.
that's the whole
I mean,
thing.
I can definitely see taking that particular like talking point into a more philosophical stance as well. Like there are a lot of people, and I almost consider myself in this vein where like, yeah, I may have come back to the same location, but I didn't really come back the same. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I came back home, but I mean, by the time I finally made it back home, I'm a completely different person than the person that left. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, it falls back into like, you don't really ever go back. you know.
Well, it's again interesting where it's not something that's really happening somewhere else. Like you can kind of look at it as a fresh beginning, where you could be like, all right, I'm done with my 4 or 20 years, whatever you do, and at that point, like because you really don't have any ties anywhere other than maybe
Yeah,
some
you can kind
family
of just go
members,
wherever you want.
you can just
Yeah.
go anywhere. Which is kind of my buddy's standpoint. He's like, dude, I've been gone for 20 years. Like, I don't have any roots anywhere. I have family here and there, but yeah, fuck it. Why not just stay in Hawaii? It's like, I
Yeah.
like
I mean,
Hawaii. It's a cool
yeah.
place. Why not just stay there? And it's like, yeah,
Yep.
I mean, I get
I have a buddy of
it.
mine. I have a buddy of mine who did the same thing. We were stationed in Florida together, um, and then he transitioned and he got orders to a command that was stationed in Japan. So he got stationed in Japan, and he finished out his contract there, and he just fucking stayed.
Yeah,
Like he lives in Japan now, full time. Like that's where he lives. It's like fuck it. I like it here. I'm just gonna stay.
yeah. It's like, why not? And you're not going to be able to have that opportunity anywhere else unless you saved up a bunch of money
Yeah.
and dropped thousands
Right.
of dollars to move somewhere.
It's not like you have a life you have to pick up and move somewhere else. It's like it's already been picked up and moved 100 times. What's one more?
And then this one's kind of funny because it's basically what we've been doing for the last couple hours. We have told amazing and hilarious stories of our exploits and adventures.
Oh yeah, I've got thousands of them.
We share an unspoken bond with each other, and that most people don't experience, and few will understand.
Yeah,
And
I
like,
agree with that 100%.
that kind of ties in, with a lot of things we're saying. It's like the average shoulder. Now, some people do get out and just become shitbags, but it's not everybody. But for the most part, like once you recognize somebody as a veteran, or once you are made aware, like your whole thought process and how you treat that person changes. I don't know if you heard the last part. But
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does change you. Like I feel like,
no, I said it
uh,
changes how you treat that person. That's what I was
oh
saying.
yeah, yeah. But that's the thing too, though, right? Because like being in the military just changes you down to your core, and it happens to everybody. Um, and just knowing that your fellow veterans have also been through that change in their own way, it
Well, like
there's
a
a lot of
DSR, for example.
deeper understanding for that person, for who they are,
Yeah,
just because you have that shared experience.
that's what I was trying to explain. Couldn't figure out how to explain that. Yeah, because it's like I can only think of examples like
Yeah,
like a DSR. Whenever I realize some new hire is a veteran, it's two
you already know
things,
everything you need to know about that
sort of.
person.
So two things happen. One, yeah, I already know. I have an idea of everything I need to know about that person.
Yeah,
But sadly, that also sets a new level of expectations for that
that's
person
also very true. Yeah,
because I'm expecting you to have X amount or these certain qualities to you,
yeah,
and I'm expecting you to live up to those standards because there's a difference between like the standards of a veteran coworker, because then I feel like you're representing me
yeah.
versus just some coworker.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like you're representing. Yeah, like veterans. Those are my people. Like you need to be representing my people accordingly.
yeah,
you know.
and that's what I said. It's kind of weird, when you meet another veteran coworker, you're like, oh, you're automatically being held to a higher standard, and I'm also more willing to help you because I want you to meet those standards.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus just a normal coworker, like, yeah, I'm gonna help you. You ask me questions, but whether you make it or don't make it, I really don't care.
yeah,
The veteran level, like, no, I want you to make it here. I want you to succeed. I want you to be as good as me or better.
yeah. I want to derail this a little bit, and I want to derail it with a question because I have conflicting views on it, and I want to know what your thoughts on it. how do you feel about people who aren't veterans that live in the persona of like a veteran kind of lifestyle? Like, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. Like these people that are like all into like guns and like having tactical gear and being combat ready and all the time, but they never served any time in the military. Like, how do you feel about people like that?
Well, there's different levels of that. I look at it as more like there's the survivalist mentality.
Yeah,
Like that kind of person I'm fine with because we're almost on the same level as far as how we think. Now, we're not going to have that same unsaid bond, obviously, but I guess it just depends. Like, if it's just somebody I'm meeting and hanging out with, that's one thing. I feel like I could probably have more to talk with you about than the standard person that I'm going to
yeah,
talk to. As a coworker, though, it really wouldn't have any effect on me because that's still going to. You being a survivalist has nothing to do with your work ethic
yeah,
versus I expect a veteran's work ethic to be stronger.
yeah. It's like I knew this guy that I used to work with. He wasn't a veteran, but he'll tell you that he tried to get in and they wouldn't let him. Which, I mean, we have all heard that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but this guy like would show up to work every day with like a tactical backpack and like an IFAC and like all this fucking shit, like just like ready for fucking war at your 9 to 5 fucking job, and it's like, dude, what are you doing?
Well, that's what I said. I mean, I've seen people that are like, survivalist, post-apocalyptic, fucking conspiracy theorist, that kind of thing. And I mean, I don't really, well, yeah, and like Ben just said, there are the like army brat kind of thing. Like you grew up around military people, so then you start acting like a military person.
Yeah,
Like there is that too.
I don't know.
That's a different genre right there, the whole army brat thing. Like if you're just
Yeah,
acting like it because you're around it for so long, it depends on how far you take that.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's always weird to like be around people, and I say weird. I don't mean that in like a bad way or even in a good way. It's just kind of indifferent. But like, it's just weird to be around people that just seem like they want to be a veteran so fucking bad. You know?
Yeah. Well, I guess I also look at it like I love post-apocalyptic thinking,
Yeah,
and that's why I like Walking Dead. That's why I like things like 7 Days to Die, and all kinds of shows and things like that. Because I constantly think like, what would I do in this situation? And if money wasn't an object, fuck, I'd probably be like the dude from goddamn Trimmers, man. I'd be, I'd be fucking full blown basement arsenal with lifetime supply of MREs and shit. Like, I'd be an extreme post apocalyptic survivalist whether I was in the army or not, just because that's because how I like to think about things.
yeah. That's interesting. That's an interesting take.
But like I said, it all depends on how you treat it. If you try to talk to me like we're equals because I'm a veteran, then it's going to rub me the wrong way. Now, if you just want to have conversations about your gear or your thoughts on post apocalyptic survivability or something or whatever, yeah, I'll talk to you all day because, like I said, I'll probably have more interest in talking to you than the normal people in the world.
Yeah, and it's like I'll like approach these kind of, well, I won't approach these kind of people, but these kind of people will like approach me and like ask me questions about my service, and then they'll try and relate to what I did to like somebody that they know, and it's like, dude, I'd rather just talk to the person that you know.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I said. If you're like trying to like
fit
convince
in
me
with
that you,
me,
yeah,
and yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, like you're a good guy and everything, but it's like you just don't get it, man. You're not gonna get it. You're not gonna be able to as much as you want to.
yeah,
It's just you don't get it. And I mean that, and but that then you have it on the other extreme for the people that like the people that think stolen valor and shit is okay, and
yeah.
that bothers the shit out of me.
Well, and it's kind of like what Ben was saying with the army brats, and same thing with the people you're talking about. It's all about what you're doing with that information.
Yeah.
Just because you grew up with the military lifestyle, yeah, you can you can relate to the military lifestyle
In a
with me.
sense, not even fully, but like in a sense, yeah, sure.
But if you're trying to use that to prove like we're the same, we should hang out more, it's not really the case. Like, yeah, we
Yeah.
have more in common than the other guy next to you, but it doesn't mean we're friends like that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you know what I've been through in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Like,
You understand one portion of it. So yeah, you know more than the guy next to you,
yeah,
but it doesn't make us the same.
yeah, I agree.
Let's see. Where were we? Unspoken bond. We speak highly of our own branch of service and poke fun at the other branches.
Oh yeah, I mean, but I think so. It's funny you mentioned that because it always rubs me the wrong way when people that aren't in the military like talk shit about other branches.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can't do that. Like, the only reason I'm allowed to talk shit about the Army was because I was in the military. Like, I talk shit about the Army, but I fully respect the Army and what they do and all the people that serve in it. Like, I'm not just talking shit. It's a joke, right? Like, I don't, like, none of us mean any of that. Like, we fully recognize
Yeah,
that
but
we're
I
all in
mean,
the
you
same
should
fucking
respect
shit.
the branch that was better than yours, though. So.
Oh, no, better, whatever. The only reason you joined the Army is because you weren't ready for the Marines yet.
Mm-hmm. Dang it! I wish I could like highlight these, like alternate. Oh, here we go. We know how. Oh yeah, so this is like I guess it ties into the other one. So we know, however, that if needed, we will be there for our brothers and sisters, and stand together as one in a heartbeat. And so no matter what branch you're in,
Oh yeah.
I'll still choke the life out of somebody talking shit about you.
I mean, and that goes back to the other thing, like poking fun at other branches. It's like, yeah, I mean, we poke fun at I poke fun at each other, but I'll lay my life down for that person. Will you?
Yeah.
I guarantee you the answer to that question is no.
Let's see. Then we got being a veteran is something that had to be earned. It can never be taken away.
Yeah.
Unless you're a shitbag. But it has no monetary value. Eh, it can.
It can.
You're
yeah.
right. I can't spend it like a dollar bill, but
I could get a better job.
yeah. Or I can get, free tickets from Vetix. I can get a 3D print from RUM-Gaming,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is a priceless gift.
Yeah.
People see a veteran and they thank them for their service, unfortunately, sometimes. Which is, I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah, I don't ever really know like how to respond to that. Thank you for your service. It's like, thanks, I guess. I mean, yeah, cool. I appreciate it.
I guess I don't like it because it became the automatic response.
Yeah.
Kind of like, like when your cashier's like, all right, thank you, have a good day, see you tomorrow. Just like, yep, okay. Or when it's an automatic response, it's no longer genuine.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to be. I mean, I'm never like rude or anything. I'm just like, oh, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have seen people be rude about that kind of stuff, and that rubs me the wrong way too. It's like whether
Yeah.
it's genuine or not. I mean, there is always at least a modicum of substance behind somebody saying that, right? So yeah, I mean, I get it.
But there's other ways to say it too, other than those exact words. Like,
Yeah.
you can literally say like, oh, thanks for joining. I could never do that. You know,
Yeah,
like
or,
when
you
you
know,
when you put other words behind it or with it or change the wordage, you know, then I feel like you're taking the effort to actually thank me, not
yeah.
just
I mean,
say
I
the
feel like
robotic response. Like,
I feel like the most impactful response that I get, and the one that resonates with me at least, is when people, rather than say thank you for your service, they say, you know, like, I appreciate your sacrifice, or, you know, stuff like
yeah,
that. You know,
that's what I'm saying. The thank you for your service is almost like the goddamn Simpsons clerk saying thank you, come again. And
yeah,
you're just like,
yeah,
oh, okay, thanks.
yeah. You too, I guess. That's fucking
Yeah.
all right.
And I hate it because it's like you don't want to be disrespectful. You know, you do appreciate the genuine thanks, but it's
Yeah,
impossible to separate the robot response from a genuine thanks.
yeah. And
Yeah,
that's why I think it's important to just treat them all as genuine, because you
yeah,
never know.
I do. I mean, I still say thanks, but
Yeah.
it's just interesting sometimes. You know, let's see if we can wrap up these other ones here. We only got like five more. So when we see each other, we give that little upward head nod or a slight smile, knowing that we have shared and experienced things that most people have not. And that's kind of like I was saying, that like that change of view whenever you finally do determine that the other person is a veteran, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like even if
Yeah.
you're like say standing in line at the cashier and like you see that veteran's ID card pop out, you're like instantaneously you're like, "Oh, you're a fellow veteran." Like
Yeah.
your whole opinion about a complete stranger you haven't even said a word to changes. You're just like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
a moment ago, this was just some random dude in line. Now I see his military ID, and now I want to walk up to him and be like, "Hey, man, what was your MLS? Like, that's fucking cool, you
yeah."
know." Me too, you know. Like, I want to go over and talk to you now. Like,
Yeah. Or me, I'm trying to hand you a business card. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
uh, yeah, it's just that little thing. Like your whole opinion about somebody without ever having said a word to them can change the moment you just recognize or learn that they're a veteran.
yeah,
At the same time, though, I've had the opposite mentality. Like I said, like like at work or something, or when somebody's acting like a piece of shit, and then you find out they're a veteran, you're like, what?
like,
This motherfucker. Now you feel like you got to go and have a talk with him off to the side,
what
like.
the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, because again, that comes back to like you're representing me. You need to
Yeah.
knock that shit off.
But I mean, again, that's kind of a thing, though, right? Like, that's what they instill in you in the military, is to look out for one another, right? Like, make sure we're all, dotting our I's and crossing our T's, you know. So
Yeah,
when somebody's not, it's like our responsibility, our obligation to correct that person.
yeah.
You know.
Uh, oh shit! I guess the last thing is just like a salutations from the author. It says, so from myself to the rest of the veterans out there, I commend and thank you for all that you've done as sacrifice for our country.
Yep.
Try to remember the good times and make peace with the bad times. Share your stories, but most importantly, stand tall and proud, for you have earned the right to be called a veteran.
Yep.
Just, again, at least for me, it's one of those things like you don't always think about what it is to be a veteran when you are a veteran. It just is.
Yeah, it just
And
is.
it's not till you're reading things like this, like, you know what, you're right. Like, I guess
Yeah.
I should stand a little taller or prouder.
Yeah, I mean, you are a select breed of people that are either unable or unwilling to make that sacrifice, and the sacrifice, big or small, doesn't really matter. The fact of the what matters is that you took that leap, and you fulfilled that obligation.
Yeah.
And so that's what, again, like I said before, I suffer a lot with imposter syndrome, and feeling like you know because I didn't deploy, or I wasn't on a boat, or I never saw combat, that I'm lesser of a veteran than the
Yeah.
other person sitting next to me.
Which is the same thing I feel with the
Yeah,
extreme of like the guy that was taking lives and watching his buddies die next to him. And I'm like, man, like, how can I dare say I have PTSD?
Yeah,
Shit.
but that's the thing about it, though. I mean, you just have to recognize and understand that, you know, that doesn't matter. You know, I mean, it does, but at the end of it all, you did something that a large majority of the population is either unable or unwilling to do. And just giving up the amount of time that you did, you know, the 4 years, the 10 years, 15 years, whatever the case may be, is more than what the majority of the population does.
Yeah.
And that's something to be proud of, and that's something to recognize.
Which is part of the reason I'm pushing Grace to join the Air Force.
It's an opportunity to be a part of something much, much larger than yourself that you will never find anywhere else.
Yeah. And it's, you know, a lifetime of experiences that can be wrapped up in a short period of time.
Yeah, a very short period of time. Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty crazy because I do a lot of reflecting on, you know, my time in the military, and looking back on it, like, you have to. It's funny because I'll hear people talk about all the time. It's like, I would never go into the military because if that drill sergeant tried to get in my face, I'd beat the fuck out of him. And it's like, I
Yeah.
don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a shit how big you are. I don't give a shit how smart you are. They have been doing this for hundreds of years. They have it down to a science. They are going to break you down into tiny little pieces, and they are going to build you back up into a better person.
Or they're going to
Like,
make you quit.
or they're gonna make, or you're gonna quit,
And
and
prove that
that's
you
on
weren't
you.
worthy.
Yeah, and prove that you're not worth it, right? So it's like it doesn't matter, you know, who you are, what you've done. You are going to go in as one person, and you are going to leave as an entirely different person.
It's funny you mentioned that type of person. That I've heard that before. You know, the whole oh, I'd knock that dude out or something, or
It's like, no, you wouldn't.
and it's like, I mean, regardless whether you think you would or not, like it's, I don't know. It irritates me when I hear it for reasons I can't
Yeah,
really put in like one sentence, but it's like you're basically saying like you were just such a selfish, lazy, unchanging piece of shit that you couldn't just tolerate somebody telling you what to do in order to do something that would improve yourself and so much more. Like it would help make you a better person.
yeah,
Because if you can't take that, then you need help. Like
yeah,
in
yeah.
a sense, that military training would help you.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, though. That the other part of that frustrates me is like what I just said. Like, they've been doing this for hundreds of years, and you think that you can break that system? Like, no, I'm sorry, you
Well,
can't.
I mean, it's just
Like,
I mean, just from a logical standpoint, it's just illogical. I mean, not whether you're not going to break the system, but whether you think that would actually do something is just idiotic.
yeah,
I guarantee you, you punch that drill sergeant, he's punching you back,
yeah,
and so is
and he's
probably
gonna,
two other drill sergeants.
yeah, and they're gonna
Like,
sit
so-
there and they're gonna fucking humble your ass until you get it.
yeah, and
You know,
most of these fucking drill sergeants are way more trained than you.
yeah,
I mean, well, at least back in my day in the army, they're all like fucking special forces, ranger, pathfinder, like kill you with a fucking MRE spoon before you even know what's going on. Like,
yeah,
and like, no, I wouldn't have dare challenge it. Even now, like,
yeah.
I'm a big old boy and I'm a little bit trained. I wouldn't. I'd look at that motherfucker half my size and be like, pass.
Yeah,
Like,
it's funny. I came to that realization in boot camp because one of my in the Navy we call them RDCs, Recruit Division Commanders, um, but it's a drill instructor, it's the same thing. Um, but there was the one drill instructor that we had. He was like he was like in his mid 40s. He'd been in for fucking ever. This guy was like 6'2", lanky as fuck, just looked like skin and bones. But god damn it, if that guy couldn't sit there and do fucking triangle push-ups for an hour and a half, like this guy was just powerful. Like I just no other way to describe it. Like this guy was insane. Insane. And it's like you never would have known just seeing that guy out on the street that he could just he could run circles around you.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's also, understanding the brotherhood of the drill sergeants. Like
Yeah,
you're not fighting one drill sergeant. You'll be
fighting
fighting all of them.
Yeah.
So I don't give a shit if you're fucking Bruce Lee. You're not fucking punching one of those drill sergeants unless you're ready to take them all on at one time.
Yeah, right. And it's like you can be all big, bad, and tough, but as soon as they get in your fucking face and start screaming in your fucking face and spitting on your fucking eyes, like you turn into a big fucking pussy real quick, dude.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you think about some of the people, they think they're all like hood tough and shit, grew up in the streets, they're like, I could see them, like, again, it'd be like the humbling experience. They're not going to get scared. They're going to think, no, fuck you. I'm going to prove I ain't got to take this from you. And they're going to prove that, yes, you do.
Yes, you are.
Like, you're either going to take it verbally or physically. The choice is yours. I mean, shit. But it is always silly when you hear that, like, I wouldn't be able to take somebody yelling at me all day telling me what to do. And it's like, well, then you're a piece of shit then. Like, I mean, if you're basically just saying, I'm unwilling to change for the better.
Yeah.
Like, you just, to me, I mean, it might be a little bit of an extreme saying this, but you're the same category that, like, thinks that you have to beat up on people that are smaller than you or something, or can't control from hitting somebody or something.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's one thing, like, I always joke about, I have, like, violent tendencies in my head all the time. Like, my first thought is to punch or choke somebody out, but I've never done it. Like,
Yeah.
And I've said before, like, whenever it comes time to, like, a serious, like, somebody trying to fight me or something like that, I'm the calmest person in the room. I'm the motherfucker you need to worry about. Like, because I'm not saying shit. I'm not yelling shit. I'm not throwing my hands in the air. No, I'm perfectly still, hands at my side.
Yeah.
Telling you, you need to walk away.
It's like, and I'm also the kind of person that's going to tell you need to walk away, and I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. Like, don't fuck around.
But again,
find out.
Again, it's that military training. Like, dude, I've been yelled at, I've been screamed at, I've been threatened, I've been surrounded by people threatening me. Like, you aren't shit. Like,
yes.
The angry drunk at the bar raising your voice, I don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Because I know how to control the situation. You know
like
how to.
I've met people and had people screaming at me that would eat you for breakfast.
Yeah. It's like you are not intimidating in the slightest. If anything, you're funny.
Yeah.
Did I ever send you that recording from the fucking Call of Duty match a couple weeks ago?
Maybe.
I'll have to send it to you after this, but it comes back to where you're talking about laughing at people that get angry.
Yeah.
There was this. I joined the DMZ, the 3-man squads, and it was with this dude that apparently they were both drunk, but the one dude had a mic and was drunk. The other dude was his friend who had a broken mic, so he was on his phone on like Discord.
Oh no, I watched that happen live during stream. I watched that happen.
Oh yeah, I think you were there. Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. I ended up like recording that and sending it to Garrett and Scott. But it's like, yeah, that dude at the end, like, he's like, oh yeah, you're laughing because you ain't got shit to say. Oh, I'm laughing because you don't know who I am. And this is hilarious. Like,
It's like you have no idea who you're talking to right now. Like I would love for you to come and say this kind of shit.
Yeah,
to my
it's just
face.
the amount of fucks I give about you is I would literally put you to sleep, put you out in my front yard, call the cops, and make a sandwich. Like,
Right.
and be halfway through my sandwich when they show up and be like, there he is. Just, what happened? I don't know. He just came, started yelling. I told him to stop. He didn't. Now he's asleep. I don't know.
I asked him to stop. He didn't, so I made him stop.
Yeah. It's just, like, man, third one this week. Huh? Yeah, well, yeah.
If people want to fuck around, they're gonna find out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, shit. All right. Well, you wanna what was it? Exit us? No. Outro. You wanna outro us?
Yeah, I can outro us. Well, it was a good conversation. I hope those of you that are watching enjoyed it. We will be continuing to do this every Thursday at the same time, so make sure to tune in for the next one. I'll be putting some talking points together for the next one, so hopefully it'll be another interesting conversation. Once again, I'm Dragon Lord.
And I'm Big Texas Goat.
Big Texas Goat.
And don't forget, you can also submit suggestions for these discussions.
Yeah, so if you have any kind of takes that you'd like us to talk about, I've got a hot take on a couple of different things. I'm sure Goat's got some hot takes on things. Whatever you'd like to hear or put on, go ahead and let us know. And don't forget, go to our website, rum-gaming.com. Sign up for a free 3D print if you're a veteran. If you're not, show us some support. Maybe purchase some 3D prints. We can do anything that you can find on Thingiverse.
If not, pay attention to our rotating night bot that tells you to do a monthly giveaway.
Yep, we do a monthly giveaway. And other than that, I hope you all have a great night, and we will see y'all again same time next week.
Yep, and also the Monday, Wednesday stream still. So,
yes.
All right. Well, good hanging out.
Yep.
We'll see y'all next week.